Return to the past with a warehouse. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, The Philosophy of Merchants. After getting a house comparable to that of an ordinary wealthy family and having a very sumptuous lunch, Sanjiu and others were not completely loyal to Li Ju, but they were not far from it. In the afternoon, Yu Yaoniang took them to familiarize themselves with how to deal with various places, where the toilet was, where to wash hands and bathe, and that it was not allowed to splash water or pour dirt near the water source, and what to do with domestic garbage. It was just dazzling. Fortunately, there was very little garbage at that time. Even needles, threads, brains, cloth corners, and porcelain fragments could be put to good use. If you count carefully, there would only be some swill in the kitchen. But as long as 2 pigs were raised, even the swill problem could be solved. In the afternoon, everyone memorized the characters outside several houses, shaved their heads, put on various hats given by Li Ju, and burned their old clothes. When Li Ju looked at them again at dinner in the evening, they were all neat and tidy, with a brand new look. The next morning, Li Ju was still the first to get up. Yu Yaoniang got up and woke up Sanjiu. After the two washed up together, they went to the kitchen to make breakfast. It was the first time that Sanjiu slept on such a soft bed, in such a quiet place, and felt so safe that she overslept. She blushed, even when the rice was cooked in the kitchen. She still felt it was unreal. How could she live such a good life, just by knocking on the door of the chicken feather room? Tomorrow, she must offer a longevity ranking to Master Li to bless him with longevity and wealth. After cooking, Sanjiu went home to wake up her daughter to eat. Chuzan and the mute had already come to get the food. They should have eaten in the main hall next door, but because there were few people, they simply squatted at the door and drank the porridge in a daze, stuffed a big steamed bun and a boiled egg, ate their fill, washed the bowl and returned it, and started to work. Chuzan still remembered Li Ju's instructions yesterday, so he entrusted his younger brother to Sanjiu to help take care of him, put on the green boots given by Li Ju, and went out to find Wang Dechen. The mute waited at home until Li Ju came back from morning exercise, and when Li Ju finished his breakfast, porridge, steamed buns, and eggs, exactly the same as any of them, and then followed Li Ju out to the carriage and horse shop to buy a carriage. The carriage and horse shop did not have any new cars ready. They mainly engaged in the business of hiring, and did not directly sell carriages and horses. After all, this was just a small city, and there were not many families who could keep their own drivers and horses for a long time. Li Ju calculated what he had to do this spring, and gave up the idea of hiring. There were too many places that needed cars, and it was not necessarily possible to dispatch them if he always came to find them temporarily, so he simply bought 2 cars himself, and asked them to come to his house regularly to repair the cars. In the end, they ordered 2 cars from the carriage and horse shop, both of which required a canopy, and agreed to pick them up after the new year. After ordering the cars, they had to buy mules and horses. Li Ju was reluctant to let his own Azabia poor horse to pull the cart. Now that the new year was coming soon, there were no livestock for sale on the market. Li Ju dug the dying and weaving Chen out of his home and asked him to decide what livestock to order. Ramsey Chen was dug out from his wife's soft and fragrant body. When he saw Li Ju's gloomy face, he wanted to slam the door. But Li Ju still has so much cloth. Dyeing and weaving Chen greeted him with a smile. Mr. Li, if you have anything, just tell the counter. Why do you come here in person? Who is this young man? Ah, the new person I hired, who is specifically responsible for moving things and sorting goods for me. His last name is Liada, and he can't speak. With him sorting out the goods, I can save money. I don't have to do every little thing myself. I still have a lot of things to do after this month. Li Ju already had a lot of things written down in his notebook, and it would be not worth it for him to run around for most of the day, just to sell cloth or something. I won't say so much. Please accompany me. I need to order some animals this time. This is a big deal. Animal power is needed everywhere nowadays. A 2-year-old ox for plowing is worth 10 teals. A short-bodied donkey is worth 20 teals. And I just bought a big black mule the other day. He is an old acquaintance, and I spent 25 teals of silver at the reserve price. Dying and Weaving Chen became excited after hearing what he said. He led Li Ju to the livestock market and settled accounts with him. One cow can only plow 3 acres of land at most a day, and one person is needed to take care of it. You have 600 or 700 acres on the mountain, and there are also many dry lands. Even if half of them are to be planted with fruit trees, they still need to be plowed and dug. Let's calculate for half a month, and we have to plow 30 acres of land every day. If we only use cows, we need 10. If we take into account manpower, we need 7 or 8. Finally, Dying and Weaving Chen gave Li Ju a list. 5 oxen for plowing, under 2 years old, 3 mules, and 1 horse for pulling a cart. Anyway, Li Ju is still a rich man now, so it is enough for him to ride a mule, to carry a sedan chair. As for the carriage, he can wait until he has a good career. Li Ju thought of the land at home, and added another cow to plow the land in the Li garden. Hearing that Ramsey Chen mentioned the issue of identity, Li Ju said, "But I don't know how to deal with the government after you have wealth here." Ramsey Chen said, "Oh, I thought you would have to suffer for a few days before you knew it, but it turns out that you have an idea in your mind. The most common thing is to donate more ice and pay more taxes like us and do the usual things. It would be best if you could marry a sister or a girl to them, and then you would become in-laws. The county magistrate and prefect here are all good people. As long as you can increase the population and pay taxes for our Qingshan County, the officials will not force people to death for money." You said this is common. Then what is uncommon? It's not common. That is, one of your own people becomes an official. The best is that you yourself or your sons and brothers can pass the imperial examination. The worst is that you make friends with a few scholars now, and when they pass the examination, you can help them to get an official position, and it will be easier to do things on the ship. It's also because you don't have any relatives. If you can recognize a clan, even if you pay a little money, you can become a member of a big clan. When their scholars are successful, you will naturally have a share. Dying and Weaving Chen said happily, "Our Chen family had a Jiren who passed the imperial examination 2 years ago, but it was a lucky ungrateful person who turned his back on us. Fortunately, he turned his back quickly and didn't pay any money. Let's see how he will end up in the future." This year, there are a few guys going to take the exam. They are all very good consciences. If one of them passes and then becomes a Jinshi, we will be rich. Li Ju pondered for a moment and said, "Can I ask my elder brother to introduce 1 or 2 to me in the future? I have to wander around Qingshan County for a while, and I have to make friends with a few true Buddhas before I can do anything." Dying and Weaving Chen readily agreed, "Very well, very well. How can I not send those colorful satins and the like to you all? And the fire making tools and the best fruits are also sent. When the time comes, I will just say that you learn to make them yourself, and I can avoid you from being labeled as a merchant." Chapter 27. How about I marry my sister to you as a concubine? Dying and Weaving Chen also found out that Li Ju was not a businessman when he helped him get the land deed. According to what Li Ju wanted to do in the future, whether it was weaving cloth by himself, making some ingenious things, or cultivating good varieties, he was indeed not a merchant who bought low and sold high. If he was not a merchant, there would be many things to think about. Now the world is peaceful and the management is still relatively strict. Merchants cannot wear silk, cannot participate in the imperial examination, and are inferior to everyone they meet. In the early days of a general feudal dynasty, in order to encourage the development of production, the rulers would mostly adopt a policy of emphasizing agriculture and suppressing commerce, and fix people on the land as much as possible. But in the later period, it was basically whoever had the money had the final say. At that time, the big merchants became powerful, and even the government could not avoid being corrupted, or wanted to manage, but had no power, and the society entered a period of ritual collapse and music. In the team, both environments have their advantages. But because he was soft-hearted, it was still better in the early stage. In the early stage, the society was stable and prosperous everywhere, and Li Ju at least did not have to worry too much about personal safety. If he traveled back to the late period of a dynasty, most of the people would be living in poverty and wars would break out everywhere. Li Ju might not be able to save everyone if he saved them one by one. Take this year's plan for example. Li Ju plans to make a few farm tools and then breed high-yield food crops and cash crops such as corn, sweet potatoes, and peanuts. In the textile industry, he will improve looms and spinning machines to improve the efficiency of textiles. This is why he needs female workers. Cement, honeycomb coal, soap and other things are necessities of life. In order to live happily, he must make these things as soon as possible. In addition, he must rely on modern scientific and technological products to complete the primitive accumulation of capital, open up connections, and obtain official protection so that he will not be confiscated by the court. If he becomes a little bigger, this requires him to prove that he has the ability to provide more food and more people, or to obtain high profits from overseas. It is not enough to make money only in China. For the court at this time, making more money on the court's territory is just to concentrate the money belonging to a part of the people, which is obviously inconsistent with their original intention. Only by multiplying the population and increasing output can one be recognized as a merit by the court. Of course, if he can pass the imperial examination, that is another matter. Ran Xichen seemed to have discovered that he was still of some use to Li Ju, and was still planning for Li Ju with great interest. Master Li, I think you are not an ordinary person. If you are really a reliable candidate, we can become godparents. I will marry my sister to you as a concubine, and then we will be a family. Anyone with a promising family in our Chen family is also a promising family in your Li family. What do you think? Li Ju looked at Ran Xichen's appearance, with his short stature, round head, small nose and small eyes. He didn't dare to think about what his sister looked like, so he just smiled and said, my family precepts do not allow us to take concubines, only to marry one wife. If your daughter and I have similar interests, I will marry her. If not, I would not want her, even if she is a fairy from heaven. Oh my, have similar interests with you? Then I can only find the county magistrate. In our entire Qingshan County, only you and the county magistrate can be considered great kind people. Ran Xichen talked a lot. For example, the county magistrate had just taken office for 2 years. The county's exorbitant taxes and levies had been reduced a lot, and the county government was not doing well. But even so, the county magistrate gritted his teeth and built a fashion hall to adopt homeless children, teach boys to farm, and girls to weave cloth. And when they turned 13, they were ordered to find their own way to make a living, etc. The county magistrate also wanted to build the annual hall, but he had no money, so he had to give up. Hearing this, Li Ju was thoughtful, and probably knew how to get through the government in the future. As they were talking, they arrived at the livestock market. Ransi displayed 3 owners, and asked Li Ju to choose for himself. Li Ju chose Yu Yaoniang, who had the best livestock, but the price was high. The livestock sold by Yu Yaoniang were expensive, really good, and there were 2 veterinarians in charge. It was really expensive, and the big black mule was bought here at a base price of 25 taels. Under the coercion and inducement of dyeing and weaving Chen, the ox and horse king cursed, if I give you a benefit, you will give me all my bottom price to others. He wrote down Li Ju's needs, and picked out livestock for him. Dyeing and weaving Chen didn't care, just say it. If you can say that this big brother is my relative, I will thank your ancestors for 8 generations. The red satin I gave your wife last time was from Big Brother Li. If it weren't for this, you would have been flirting with other people outside, and your wife would have kicked out your cunning mind. The ox and horse king was exposed by dyeing and weaving Chen, and he begged everyone to shut up. He counted the inventory, took Li Ju to choose for half a day, and finally told Li Ju that only a half-grown calf was still the best, and asked him to take it back in a few days and raise it in the second half of the year. The other livestock can only be collected after the new year, and they are now being raised in the countryside. After deciding on the livestock, Li Ju asked the mute, do you remember all the places we just came to? The mute nodded. Li Ju said, okay, next time we deliver something to Boss Chen, that is, Chen from the cloth shop, you will drive the car to deliver it. I will make a list for Chen, and he will check it, and send it back. Oh, I'm afraid that something will happen to you. so you can take Shibalang with you when you go out. He is young and smart. The mute continued to nod. On the way back, Li Ju moved a lot of coarse cloth from Chen's house. He and the mute each carried a large bundle and walked back to Li Garden. It is good to have more people. The third day of the new year was still running outside. Shibalang finished the sweeping and didn't know what else to do, so he took the initiative to wait for Li Ju to come back at the door. Sanjiu and Yaoniang prepared the meal and put it on the stove to heat it for Li Ju to come back. At this time, she was doing some needlework with Xiaolian. Sanjiu was talking to Yaoniang. We have to ask the master if he wants to decorate the garden to make it look like the new year. Suddenly, Shibalang said at the door in front, the master is back. The two stood up together, put the needlework and other things in their hands into the sewing basket, and went forward to greet Li Ju. Yaoniang asked, Master, will you go back to your room first or eat first? Where is the meal? Sanjiu reached out to take the cloth on Li Ju's back. Li Ju walked in, waving his hands and said, this is heavy, you can't take it. I'll eat in the kitchen. This is the cloth for making door curtains. You can make a set of curtains for your rooms first. If there are more, you will be responsible for sending it to the warehouse. Have you eaten? Yaoniang followed closely and said, no, I want to wait for the master to come back and eat together. Sister Zhao means the same thing. Sanjiu carried the basket, pulled Xiaolian, and said, we are servants. The master is kind and asked us to eat the same meal. How can we eat first and let the master eat the leftovers? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, New Year's Eve. I don't treat you as slaves. We are in an employment relationship, understand? I pay you to work, and if the work is not done well, I will deduct your money. That's it. Li Ju and the mute put the cloth at the entrance of the main hall, corrected Sanjiu's cognition, and then continued, in the future, when it's time, you can eat first. Just save my share. What's for lunch today? Yaoniang said, cabbage stewed with meat, shrimp and tofu soup, scrambled eggs with sauerkraut, and rice that is half rice and half corn. I'm afraid you won't have enough to eat, so I steamed a few white flour buns. Li Ju thought it was okay, but when he got there, he saw that there were only a few pieces of meat in the cabbage stewed with meat. The shrimp and tofu soup looked like dried shrimps, and the scrambled eggs with sauerkraut was a pot of sauerkraut and one egg. Only the bun and the rice looked decent. Li Ju had no choice but to wash his hands and cook by himself, and quickly fried a little rooster. I said there must be meat at every meal. Are you just being perfunctory? Then I say, there must be a big meat dish for lunch in the future. Blanching in water to remove the fishy smell, sauteing in large amounts of oil, stir frying over high heat. The chicken pieces flew out of beautiful and attractive arcs in Li Ju's spoon, and gradually turned into a beautiful soy sauce color. I don't know how people save money outside, but I hope that every one of you will eat well. Especially you kids. How old are you? Can you grow taller and stronger if you drink plain soup every day? Can you save a fortune by saving a mouthful of meat every day? The meat was taken out of the pot and served on the table. The aroma of meat filled the air. Several people in the room sniffed, and no one dared to speak, because they all knew that Master Li was really a little angry. Li Ju asked Shibalang to leave a bowl of rice, a bowl of vegetables, and a bowl of soup in the steamer for his brother first, and then the rest was divided among everyone, and they all ate at the small table set up in the kitchen. Yaoniang quickly finished her share, put the bowl in the basket to wash later, and then sat next to Li Ju and grabbed his clothes. Master, I will never dare to act on my own again. But I'm afraid that master will be out of money in the future and will have to let me go out to find a job. I don't know anything yet. Silly girl. Li Ju knocked her head. Remember this in the future. Chusen came back in the afternoon with Wang Dechen's instructions and ordered the stone from the stone shop. About 3 or 5 carts would be enough, and asked the stone shop to deliver it and move it to the side of the place to be repaired, saving her own effort. As for the person who can do plastering, there is indeed one, that is Wu Daling. After he arrived at the chicken feather room, he also cleaned up a few damaged places. It can be seen that he is quite capable. The new year will be coming soon in the next 2 days, and after the new year, he sent Wu Dalang and his family to Lee Garden. Chusan went to the stone shop, but because it was closed, Chu Sanlang didn't know anyone and couldn't find the boss, so he had to come back, and he was a little dejected because he didn't complete the task. Li Ju asked him to finish his meal quickly and start working in the afternoon while the sky was bright. First, a batch of bed sheets, quilt covers and curtains needed to be made because more people would move in a few days after the new year. Every one of these people knew how to sew. It wouldn't work if they didn't. If they didn't know how to sew, no one would mend their torn clothes when they were wandering outside, and they couldn't wear their old clothes. Li Ju had a lot to do. He had to start drawing the farm tools for next year and looking for craftsmen. He had to start selecting seeds for the good varieties to be cultivated next year. He only had a rough idea of how to deal with the local tyrants of the county magistrate, and he had to refine it, and the most important thing was Pinayan. When teaching Yu Yaoniang to read, Li Ju found that memorizing all the idioms by rote was not necessarily fast, and it was much more convenient with Pinayan. When they encountered words they couldn't pronounce, they could spell them out by comparing the Pinayan, and they would naturally know which sentence they were memorizing. So the first textbook he wanted to compile was the elementary Chinese language Pinayan textbook. He chose the first grade volume of the Chinese language textbook as a blueprint, but he replaced the content of the text with other content, such as the 1000-character classic and the analects. In the future, he would also teach some laws and basic natural knowledge. Since he was teaching Chinese, he might as well teach mathematics as well, so that they would not be cheated when they went out to do things in the future. Apart from other things, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, decimal point calculations, and income and expenditure issues must be calculated clearly for them. Sanjiu and others were doing needlework in a room with a charcoal fire, and Li Ju was writing books with an oil lamp on the side. Occasionally, he heard Sanjiu teaching the mute or Xiaolian to do chores, and the atmosphere was very good. As he was writing, Li Ju felt something was wrong. He was using a fountain pen for hard pen calligraphy, but could the hard pen he brought at this time be supplied in bulk? In addition to the pen, ink, paper, and inkstone were also problems. The price of paper at this time was not expensive, and paper was also used for toilet use, but the price of writing paper was not low, and the ink was still ingot ink, not to mention the inkstone. Li Ju scratched his head and thought, forget it, let's start with pencils. Give each person a pencil and an eraser, saving the need to grind ink and inkstone, and paper can be reused. He arranged the initials and finals by tone, added phonetic notation to 1000 characters and the analects, and copied and reformatted the basic mathematical symbols such as the 4 arithmetic operations, brackets, and semicolons. The sky darkened, and another day passed. Li Ju clapped his hands, very satisfied with the results of his work. Tomorrow he would ask the mute to paint a large blackboard and find 2 pieces of chalk, and the class would be open. The 5 of them were his first batch of students. When more people came later, the boys would follow the 3rd and 18th grade, and the girls would follow the 3, 9 and the youngest mother. He was only responsible for teaching these 5 and arranging exams, which would save a lot of time. If there were people with extraordinary talents, they would be sent to school with money, or even hired a teacher to give lectures. We'll talk about it then. Everyone put down their work. The 3, 9 and the youngest mother went to cook, and the 18th son followed to light the fire. On the 3rd day of the new year, the finished curtains and bed sheets were stacked and placed neatly one by one, and according to Li Ju's request, they were stacked one by one on the floor of the main hall. The unfinished items were placed in baskets, especially needles, scissors and other items, which could easily hurt people, and must not be lost. They had to be counted one by one, and then put together. In this way, everyone did 2 days of easy work before the new year, and it was New Year's Eve soon. Chapter 29, a junior guest arrives. Li Ju had a very lively first year in Yang Dynasty. Although there were only 7 people, everyone had a great time because of the simplest and plain fireworks that Li Ju found. As steady as Sanjiu was, he couldn't help but play with his daughter with 2 fireworks. Only the mute, after lighting the largest bundles of fireworks, went to the side to sit and watch, and did not participate in the excitement. Only when they wanted to light them, did he learn the method that Li Ju had just taught to light them. At this time, the technology of fireworks and firecrackers was relatively advanced. I dare not say how sophisticated and imaginative it was, but the basic firework and silver flowers were no problem. Many wealthy families in the city also set off fireworks and firecrackers, some of which were launched into the air, some were high up, and some had a series of dozens of blasts, which were festive and lively. But none of them were as colorful and novel as those that Li Ju took out. Dying and weaving Chen, who was far away in the north of the city, saw it and heard his wife, sister, daughter and others chattering. Whose fireworks are those? They are so beautiful, I have never seen them before. Yeah, can fireworks have so many colors? I have only seen white, yellow, and green ones, and this one has purple, blue, and red. It's so beautiful. There are so many styles, and it flies so high. Dying and weaving Chen also took a look, thought about the direction carefully, and slapped his thigh. Damn, what a loss. It must be made by Mr. Li. Who else but him? Qingshan County is so small, and anyone who kills a pig can talk about it for a long time. How can they keep such fireworks and firecrackers secret? It can only be Li Juke. Dying and weaving Chen's wife heard it and said, did that Mr. Li you just met make it? You go to his house tomorrow, and buy 2 back. I want to take a closer look. Dying and weaving Chen also wanted to. He was still distressed. If he had known about such good fireworks earlier, he would have taken dozens of carts to Qiantang and Jinling to sell them, and he would have made a huge profit. Fortunately, it is not too late to know now, and there is still the 15th day of the first lunar month. On the 15th day of the first lunar month, people enjoy the lanterns. There is no curfew. On that day, the fireworks against the flower market and lantern market will be so beautiful. I will go to find Li Ju tomorrow, and I will not let him go until he has 10 or 8 carts. Generally, no one would bother to go to other people's homes on the first day of the new year, but when Ranzi Chen thought about the white silver, the admiring eyes of his wife, and the pursuit of other businessmen, he became arrogant. Anyway, Li Ju has no wife and parents, so even if he comes to his house on the first day of the new year, he will never disturb him. So Ranzi Chen shamelessly drove the donkey cart here. Unexpectedly, he arrived late. When he tied the donkey, he found that in addition to the majestic Aze, there were also 2 horses and a black mule tied in the stable. The mule was fine, but he recognized the 2 horses. One was the carriage of Huang Zhi, a former imperial scholar in the county, and the other was the carriage of the eldest son of the county magistrate. Walking further in, he saw a few servants warming themselves by the fire in the empty room under the hanging flower gate. They all belonged to the 2 families. Fortunately, it was not too bad. At least the 2 of them did not come to the door to do business. They were all scholars and officials. Most of them were interested in what they saw last night and came here today to find out what was going on. Ranzi Chen guessed correctly. Li Ju got up a little late this morning. He had just come back from boxing and running. It was not enough for him to have breakfast when 2 guests came to his house. Of the 2 guests, the older one was about 30 years old, wearing a jade-colored satin tunic, a reddish-brown round-necked robe with gold-embellished patterns, and a fur hat. The other young man was about 16 or 17 years old, wearing a pink satin quilted Taoist robe, a golden goose yellow sash, and a square scarf. It was obvious that both of them were students. In the spirit of less trouble is worse than more trouble, and don't mess with scholars in ancient times, Li Ju asked Yu Yaoniang to cook a pot of modern milk tea and send it over, and asked the mute to pick a few tightly packed snacks from the warehouse and send them to the guests. The older guest was Huang Zhi, a successful candidate in the imperial examination, and the younger one was Zhaoli, the son of the county magistrate. Huang Zhi and Zhaoli were not old-fashioned people. On the contrary, they both had the spirit of coming while they were in the mood of young people. They didn't care how impolite Li Ju was in treating guests, and they were still discussing the special features of Li Garden with great interest while waiting for Li Ju to change his clothes. Yu Yaoniang cooked milk tea and poured a large bowl for each of them using the Xianmu bowl that Li Ju had taken out from the modern world. She said, "Master, please heat it carefully." It must be blown until it is warm before drinking. This is our master's favorite tea. Because it is mixed with milk, it is called milk tea. I don't know if it suits your taste. It's true that the master just moved into the garden and hasn't found many things yet, so I have to apologize. It doesn't matter. You can see it as soon as you enter the door. Your master is a funny person. Huang Zhi said with a smile. How can he not be funny? In the entire Jiangnan 3 provinces, which one bought a large garden and didn't build a garden landscape, but turned the land to grow crops. In other words, Huang Zhi was a member of the Learning for Practical Use school. He was also concerned about grain production and agriculture. He felt that, although Li Ju's behavior was extraordinary, it reflected his heart for the people and farmers. Otherwise, he would have ridiculed him in his heart. Yu Yaoniang was very happy when she heard the guests praising the master, but she didn't know what to say, so she bowed to Huang Zhi and Zhaoli, turned around and left, and met them who brought snacks, so she took the snacks. Li Ju changed into a clean linen jacket, put on the Taoist robe made by Yu Yaoniang, stepped on a pair of shallow felt shoes, wrapped himself in a scarf and came out. The room had been warmed by the mute's fire, so it was not cold to wear this. Li Ju had no fame, so he bowed and took the initiative to explain, I'm a newcomer, and I don't know who you are. Huang Zhi smiled and said, little brother, don't be polite, we are sorry to bother you. I'm a teacher in this county, my surname is Huang, this is my student and my good friend, Yu Yaoniang. Li Ju was relieved to hear this. In this era, a teacher who is not short of money is willing to be friends with students, which is enough to show that they either have similar tastes or are open-minded. He thinks these two people are both. Li Ju and the other two pushed each other around, and Li Ju took the main seat. Huang Zhi sat opposite him, and Zhaoli sat next to Huang Zhi. Yu Yaoniang came to pour Li Ju a cup of tea, and Li Ju told her, I remembered something. You told Ardao and Chusen to remember to prepare a few places for guests. I forgot about this when I marked out the room, and I shouldn't have treated the distinguished guests badly. Chapter 30 Li Ju's Great Ambition. After Yu Yaoniang was pushed out, Li Ju opened several boxes of snacks by himself. They were egg yolk crisps, cakes, mochi, dried fruits and the like, and were separated and placed in a gift box. Huang Zhi was past the age of pursuing food desires, and Zhaoli was still a child who had not been beaten by society. He took one of each to try, and the more he ate, the more surprised he was. It was okay to put sugar in it for free, but he had never tasted such a soft texture, and there was also a strong milky aroma, which meant that a lot of milk was put in it. Dairy products are produced in the north, and are rarely seen in the south. How could someone use them to make snacks? Huang Zhi noticed the change in Zhaoli's expression, lowered his head to sip a sip of milk tea, and couldn't help but say softly. Li Ju took the initiative to explain, it uses black tea, milk and sugar. Are you not used to it, Mr. Huang? Huang Zhi liked the taste very much, and took another sip. Not really. I just find it novel. What kind of tea is black tea? In fact, it is just ordinary tea, but it has the process of fermentation and smoking, so the flavor is different. It is especially good when cooked with milk. Because of the addition of milk, it can also fill the stomach. It is very suitable for occasional sip in winter. I heard that there is salty milk tea in the north, but I can't get used to it. The one at home still has sugar. Li Ju was hungry at the moment, so he drank half a bowl of it to offset the hunger in his stomach, before continuing to chat. Zhaoli smiled and said, brother, your family is really thoughtful. I have seen so many new things along the way that I have never seen before. I hope you will not blame me for being too talkative. I'm really curious about how the cakes are made so fluffy, and why you built your house like this. There is a recipe for the cakes, but I can't remember it exactly. Li Ju vaguely remembered the recipe of Western cakes, but he was not very clear, so he could only look up the book in the warehouse. I will look for it and send it to your house later, or you can ask someone to pick it up. As for why Zhuangzi built it like this, the great poet Du Fu said, I wish I had thousands of mansions to shelter all the poor scholars in the world and to make them happy. Prime Minister Fan said, I worry about the world's worries before I enjoy myself, and I will enjoy myself after the world enjoys itself. Although I'm not smart, I would like to follow the example of the ancient sages. Build houses to shelter the poor scholars, and grow good seeds to feed the people. This is the arrangement you two gentlemen have seen. Li Ju said, his eyes shining. When spring comes, the houses outside will be full of people who have nowhere to go out, and they will take good care of the seedlings for me. The land outside will be planted with the good seeds that my ancestors have worked hard to cultivate, and the minimum yield per mu can reach 1 or 2,000 katis, which is more than double what it is now. 1 year won't be a big deal, but after 2 or 3 years, there should be no more people starving to death in our Kingshan County. Instead, we should worry about low grain prices hurting farmers. Li Ju wanted to hold back, but when he saw that Huang Zhi and Zhaoli both had encouraging expressions on their faces, and they were obviously like-minded, he couldn't hold back. Since he came here, he has never told anyone about his ambitions. If he told Yu Yaoniang, she wouldn't understand. If he told Sanjayu and others, they wouldn't believe him. Only by telling like-minded people can he resonate with them. Therefore, Li Ju talked too much, even telling the estimated per acre yield of the improved seeds in the warehouse. Huang Zhi cares about the local people's sentiments, and Zhaoli has often heard his father talk about the people's sentiments. Both of them have some common sense. When they heard this, they couldn't believe it. The yield per mu is 1 or 2,000 katis, which is still the lowest. Don't make fun of me, brother. When we harvest this year, I must invite you two gentlemen to come and watch in person. Li Ju laughed. That's too far off. I haven't asked you why you came to my humble home. Huang Zhi and the other two thought of the purpose. Zhaoli said, it's because of last night's fireworks. Last night, we saw the colorful and dreamy fireworks in this direction, which aroused our curiosity. We came all the way to find out that it was your house that set off fireworks, so we came uninvited. We hope that you can solve the puzzle. Why are your fireworks so colorful and different from ordinary ones? Huang Zhi added, if it involves family heirlooms, there is no need to explain in detail. Just satisfy our curiosity. It doesn't matter. Even if I take the recipe, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to mix it. Originally, some other powders were added to the gunpowder. These powders burn in colorful colors, so the fireworks can also be colorful. It's just some pleasing tricks, not worth mentioning, and I don't plan to sell it in Kingshan County. Li Ju also thought about whether to bring these things that meet higher needs to this era. After careful calculation, it's not the right time yet. He has already exchanged rare cloth and fruits for enough funds, and then used luxury goods to make money. Even if the money is in his hands, what can he do with it? For the time being, he doesn't have so many places to spend money, and he doesn't need to be so anxious to plunder the upper class of this world. In the era when the commodity economy was not yet developed, the money of the upper class basically came from the poorest farmers. Land rent, house rent, debt loans, buy low and sell high, basically constitute the economic source of ordinary rich people. When it comes to the rich and powerful families at the top, the source of income is not quite the same. But there may not be such a big family in Kingshan County, so every penny spent by the rich is inseparable from the farmers in Kingshan County. So Li Ju felt that it was not time yet. At least we should wait until the small handicraft industry is developed before we should consider making money on a larger scale. But my family makes a lot of this stuff, and I'm worried that it will be a hidden danger if it is piled there. After all, there is gunpowder. I originally planned to share some with the neighbors. Since the two gentlemen are interested, you can just take some home. It would be nice to set them off on the 15th day of the first lunar month. Huang Zhi smiled and nodded. Mr. Li is a wise man. Zhaolao and I would be disrespectful to refuse. Li Ju called the mute to go to the warehouse to pick fireworks, and each picked out 4 tubes of the fireworks they set off last night, and packed them into batches. Chuzan was very smart, and went to find the servants of the 2 masters to move the fireworks, and ran into Dying and Weaving Chen head on. When Dying and Weaving Chen asked Chuzan what was being moved out, his face was so depressed that he almost shed tears. It was not until he came to Li Ju's room that he changed his sad face into a smiling face to greet the new year. Mr. Huang, Mr. Zhao, oh, you two are here too? Li Ju was not surprised that Dying and Weaving Chen appeared, but he was a little curious about the relationship between the three of them. However, thinking about the fact that Dying and Weaving Chen specialized in cloth and had close contacts with local big families, it was reasonable. Huang Zhi was quite surprised. Manager Chen, you come here to do business on the first day of the new year? Dying and Weaving Chen bowed to the two of them and sat down on the wooden chair next to Li Ju very consciously, saying, of course, I guessed that it was a good job by Mr. Li when I saw the fireworks. Did you two see it too? After getting a positive answer, Dying and Weaving Chen did not mention the business. Huang Zhi and Zhao Li were both Wenguoxing on it. How could he mention money in front of Wenguoxing? Therefore, he ignored it and praised Li Ju instead. I guessed last night that it was him who did it. He is the only one in our city who has those good things. The colorful satin, beauty fire, and such big and sweet watermelons were all given by him. Who has seen them? I came to his house today and saw. Hey, it's true. Zhao Li said in surprise. The colorful satin is also from Brother Li Zan's family? It's just an ancestral inheritance. I don't know how it was made. Now I want to recruit some craftsmen who are good at weaving to copy it. If it is successful, it can be handed over to the people of Kingshan County to weave and dye such satin. Not only can the people earn more money a year, but our county's treasury can also raise more money. Huang Zhi thought for a moment and nodded. Mr. Li is right. I have heard of colorful satin, but I didn't expect there is such a way. According to what Mr. Li said, if it is restored, I'm afraid it will be the only one in the world, and it can be used as a tribute, and it is very valuable. If the people learn to weave this thing, they can naturally accumulate some surplus wealth. With surplus wealth, the county's taxes will inevitably increase, and Kingshan County will be rich. But, is Mr. Li really willing to teach the unique secret skills to the people to learn together? What's there to be reluctant about? First, I'm not the only one who has this. After teaching them this, I still have other uses. Second, how can a person occupy all the unique skills in the world? Third, I'm alone. Money is something that you can't bring with you when you are born, and you can't take with you when you die. It's enough for me, and I don't need to worry about it. What's the point of being rich alone? It's better to hide my wealth in the world. Then I will have another reason. Huang Zhi clapped his hands. What a true statement. Zhao Li sang good along, but in the end, his youthful nature prevailed, and he followed Li Ju's words and asked, Brother Li just said, not just this one, what other good things are there that you can show us? Chapter 31 Li Ju's secret weapon. Li Ju thought carefully about what was in his warehouse. Well, mostly cloth, jewelry and the like. What was so good about them? He had to go out and get some more things. Well, please wait a little longer. I'll go back to the warehouse and look around. I do have everything here. Food, drinks, daily necessities, everything. But I haven't sorted it out yet. There are more in my hometown. It will take some time to slowly transport them here. Dying and Weaving Chen also said, I have to go with him, in case he doesn't tell me what good things he's doing behind my back. Just like the fireworks last night, he wouldn't have told me if I hadn't seen it. Li Ju said goodbye to the two of them temporarily, and was followed by Dying and Weaving Chen, and muttered to himself. Dying Chen explained the identities and temperaments of the two men, and then said, you asked before the new year. This is the best opportunity. Mr. Huang is famous, and Mr. Zhao's family has real power, and they are not the kind of people who plunder. Today, they are delivered to your door. This is your great luck. I won't go to the warehouse with you. If there are any good things, remember to leave a few for me. Even if I dare not compete with the two masters locally, I can go to Qiantang, Jinling, and Songjiang. Li Ju also knew that Huang and Zhao had such status and position. If he could make friends, things would be easier in the future. He threw away the idea of taking some modern industrial products at random, and turned to the small warehouse opposite to fiddle with it for a long time. Huang Zhi and Zhao Li, who were waiting in the living room, drank up the milk tea, and Yu Yaoniang came to add fruit-flavored black tea again. Huang Zhi and Zhao Li drank it for novelty. They were really not used to this flavor. When Yu Yaoniang was about to add snacks for the second time, Huang Zhi and Zhao Li saw Li Ju and another man pushing a cart. The first thing that caught their attention was a 2-foot-high golden colored object with black patterns. In the middle was a large round plate with 3 needles on top and a pendulum underneath, which swung with Li Ju's movements. Li Ju did not keep them in suspense. He returned to his seat and directly moved the object to the table, explaining, "This is a self-ringing clock from the West." In addition to the 2 pendulum clocks, Li Ju also brought a pocket watch. Because the pocket watch was brand new and had never been used, the mechanical spring had long lost its power. While using the matching tools to wind up the pocket watch, Li Ju explained, "This is a self-ringing clock, which is used for timing. Look, there are 3 needles and 12 marks on it. The distance between each 2 marks represents half an hour, and this shortest needle is used to indicate the hour. Each half an hour is divided into 60 equal parts, and each equal part is a minute." After briefly explaining the principle, Li Ju asked the 3rd day of the first lunar month to remind him at exactly 9 p.m. so that the 2 guests could intuitively feel the usefulness of the self-ringing clock. After winding the springs, Li Ju turned the time of the 2 clocks and watches to the same time and let them run together. The 4 clocks of different sizes showed amazing consistency. The tick-tock sound was completely overlapped. Soon, Chusen sang the time loudly, and Li Ju turned the time of the 4 clocks to 10 o'clock, the exact time of Sishi, so that the demonstration would be clearer. The second hand turned 1 circle, the minute hand turned 1 grid, the second hand turned 15 circles, and the minute hand turned a quarter of a circle, and came to the position of 1/4, Sishi. Huang Zhi and Zhaoli were both smart people. After such a demonstration, they figured out how to read the clock, and understood the value of the clock. Li Ju directly gave the 2 pendulum clocks and pocket watches to Huang and Zhao, and then took out modern white paper and pencils to write instructions for use and care. As expected, their eyes were attracted by pencils again. The way of holding a pencil is completely different from that of a brush. The lines are extremely fine, so the words can be written very small, which saves a lot of paper, and can be written very quickly. If there is a mistake in the middle, just wipe it lightly to correct it. Seeing Li Ju writing on a small piece of paper and drawing a picture of a self-ringing clock on it, Huang Zhi hurriedly said, "Slow down, let me ask first, what kind of pen is this? What kind of ink is it? How come there is still ink after writing for so long?" "This is called a pencil. It has a kind of ink powder inside, mixed with soil, and burned into thin strips, and then clamped with 2 pieces of wood on the outside. When you want to use it, just sharpen it with a knife. If you like thin strokes, sharpen it, and if you like thick strokes, sharpen it. Because it is a kind of powder after all, it can only be attached to paper, unlike ink that will seep into it, so it will fall off with this special eraser." Li Ju took a pencil from a brand new pencil and sharpened it for the 2 guests to see on the spot and asked them to try it themselves. While Huang and Zhao were studying the pencil, Li Ju drew a quick sketch with the pencil. He originally had some sketching skills, and he had drawn quick portraits of targets in the special forces. Although it was not presentable, once the element of sketching were put into practice, the new style could still scare people. Huang Zhi and Zhaoli had just accepted the pencils that were portable, easy to store, durable, not easy to get dirty, but unfortunately there was no change in shades, and very suitable for recording thoughts and occasional findings when going out. When they looked up, they saw a new style of painting that they had never seen before. Li Ju sketched Huang Zhi, and he captured Huang Zhi's expression very well, and the realism of the picture was very good. Huang Zhi looked at it carefully and couldn't help but think how nice it would be if it was colored. Zhaoli asked directly, "What kind of painting method is this? Who taught you this? I have never seen such a method. Why do you paint black on people's faces? Why does it not make people feel dirty after painting black, but also seem more real?" Li Ju drew a circle with his bare hands and started from how the circle was transformed into a sphere through shading, and talked about the relationship between bright side, dark side, and gray side. From clocks to pencils to painting techniques, Huang and Zhao were fascinated by what they heard, so they simply stayed at Li's house for dinner. Li Ju left enough white paper and clocks for the guests to enjoy and use, and called Yu Yaoniang and Chusen to take care of the guests' tea and snacks, but he went to the kitchen to cook. This time he used a lot of ingredients that he planned to promote and popularize in Kingshan County, such as potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, white feathered chickens, and modern fruits such as apples, pears, peaches, and dates. Huang Zhi was a Juan, and Zhaoli was the son of the county magistrate. These two families must have a lot of land. If they were persuaded to use low quality and thin land to grow modern high yield crops and large scale breeding, then in the future, the resistance to persuading other farmers to accept new crops and new breeding methods would be much smaller. For this reason, Li Ju finally made 3 big dishes: beef brisket with potatoes, braised chicken nuggets, and unpo pork elbow. The side dishes included shredded ears, shredded chicken, twice cooked pork, pan-fried prawns, and steamed fish. The vegetables were stir-fried shredded potatoes, cabbage, corn, and pine nuts. In addition to white rice, the staple food was a large pot of steamed and roasted grains. After the meal, there were desserts and fruits, which were guaranteed to make the too thin-looking masters eat until they had to lean on the wall to leave. Chapter 32. Expansion of the Circle of Friends. When Li Ju was cooking, Ran Xichen soon followed him to the kitchen. As soon as he entered the door, he gave Li Ju a thumbs up. "I overheard that Mr. Huang praised you highly. This is great news. With him around, everything will be convenient in the future, and I can rest assured." Without waiting for Li Ju to ask why half, Ran Xichen explained, "The other half, we can only wait until your family has a jinshi." Li Ju was busy shoveling vegetables and flipping the pot, frowning, but asked, "Do you two drink?" Ran Xichen joked and said, "As a literati, we can have a little drink, but we don't like strong liquor." "Okay, arrange it." Li Ju wrote it down again, and later he would get a bottle of wine, yellow wine, rice wine, and a sweet fruit wine that can be taken home. Li Ju cooked 2 elbows and 2 chickens in one go, and a big pot of beef brisket, piled up like a mountain of meat. The food was more than enough for 10 people, but it was not convenient to let other people sit at the table this time. He could only arrange for Sanjiu and others to serve, and he would entertain the 2 masters, and Ran Xichen would accompany him. This was modern etiquette. Li Ju hated these high and low status, but if he said everyone is equal to Huang Zhi and others now, he would be courting death. Ran Xichen helped out, and while helping, he asked if he had a share of the pocket watches, self-ringing clocks, and pencils. Li Ju had already treated him as one of his own, and did not hide anything from him. "Pencils are not expensive to make, and I plan to sell them at a low profit, and in large quantities, so that I can support more workers. In my mind, this thing can make it easier for people to study, and it would be best if I could buy a lot of them with just 1 penny. As for clocks," Li Ju hesitated. This thing was bound to be expensive, but it was indeed useful. "I still have a dozen clocks and watches on hand. You can sell them. Just don't sell too many in one place, or they will be worthless. It depends on the labor in the future. There are too many tricks involved in timing, and the things in the middle are even more complicated and sophisticated. I don't know if they can make it. Compared to this, I have a few other small things that are easy to make, fresh, and very convenient to sell. There are both daily necessities and good life necessities. I'll make them and show you when I have free time in a couple of days." Dyeing and weaving Chen clapped his hands. "That's great. If you make it big, I won't be dyeing and weaving Chen anymore. I'll be traveling merchant Chen. The first day I met you, I knew you were going to do big things. Merchants can't get involved. We merchants are 3 inches shorter than others. If you want to do big things, how can you be short? Just leave it to me. Master Li doesn't have to worry about where to find a way. Thanks to you, I, old Chen, have a reputation in 3 provinces and 6 places. Once the clocks and fireworks are put on the market this year, and I get some new things, I will have a firm foothold in the business." Li Ju smiled, picked up a large spoonful of bean paste from the jar, and fried it into the green onions, ginger and garlic to make it fragrant. Since old Chen is willing to be his agent, Li Ju has to make plans for the business plan for the next few decades. Only 1 or 2 new things are definitely not enough. Li Ju heard that he was still a little concerned about fireworks and clocks, and couldn't help but laugh. He didn't expose him, but racked his brains to think about what else can be mass produced. There is no need to think about fireworks for the time being. Gunpowder is too dangerous. Li Ju is still thinking about whether to make firearms in advance. In this era, civilians rely on uprisings to resist feudal oppression, but once the era of hot weapons begins, the possibility of civilians relying on uprisings to overthrow the corrupt rule is almost zero. Li Ju has some concerns about the future. He doesn't know when the people can be enlightened, and he doesn't know whether he can see basic education in his lifetime, not to mention the political system in the modern sense. In this case, taking out hot weapons will undoubtedly bring disaster to civilians. But what if the country needs to resist foreign invasion? Li Ju is really hesitant, and the use and optimization of gunpowder can only be put on hold. As for clocks, it is another matter. The processing procedure of the escapement, the core component of the single pendulum clock, is too complicated. The entire clock is highly dependent on skilled and fine craftsmen, so it is not possible to launch it on a large scale for the time being. The price of this thing cannot be low, and it is not easy to handle in Qingshan County. The existing ones can only be handed over to the dyeing and weaving chen for help, and taken to the foreign market to slowly digest. As for the things that were to be handed over to dyeing and weaving chen, Li Ju had slowly thought of them when he was talking to Huang and Zhao. They were the three magic weapons of the time travelers: soap, cement, and glass. Let's not talk about anything else. First of all, to solve the problem of cleanliness and sanitation, soap and its various variants must be put on the agenda. At the same time, to solve the problem of infrastructure, that is cement, glass was already available at this time, but it was limited by purity and process, and its scope of application was temporarily limited. In addition, Li Ju was going to move the low-tech springs and honeycomb coal. Honeycomb coal will be made in the second half of the year, and springs will be matched with sofas and mattresses, which can be started in the first half of the year. Textiles are also under Li Ju's consideration, but first Li Ju has to toss out the Water Conservancy textile machine, which requires drawings and carpenters. The drawings can be found in the warehouse, and the carpenters have to be recruited slowly. In summary, in the first half of the year, farming and developing technology; in the second half of the year, finished product processing and agricultural product promotion. It would be better if more agricultural technologies that are currently available can be found. Li Ju has not had time to sort out the books in the warehouse, and there are not many options, which is far from what he expected. But the meal has to be eaten bite by bite. Qingshan County is so small and has such a large population, it cannot absorb all of Li Ju's skills. Li Ju prepared all the dishes, called the mute and others, and used 10 coins as wages. He voluntarily selected the mute, chosen, Yu Yaoniang and Zhao to help serve the dishes, warm the house, heat the wine, and get hot water. Li Ju asked dyeing and weaving chen to sit in the small private room in the main hall next door, and he went back to the house through the back door to change clothes, and then came out to invite the two guests to eat in the main hall together. Wash your hands before eating, Li Ju asked Yu Yaoniang to take out his must-have item, soap. Huang and Zhao's families are not without these things. They all use bath beans and bath powder, which are actually powders made of bean powder as the base material, plus various natural spices. It is really fragrant and expensive, but the feeling of use may not be very good. The piece of sandalwood soap that Li Ju took out was silky and delicate, with an elegant fragrance and convenient to use, which instantly won the favor of the two guests. Without waiting for them to ask, Li Ju took the initiative to say, "This is also a family heirloom. The elders in the family call it soap." There are several large boxes of finished products, not only sandalwood, but also rose and osmanthus. It is especially suitable for women. I packed it for you, brother, and it can be used to wash your hands and face. I do have the formula, but I'm missing a lot of things, so I'm afraid I can't make such a good product. After the first month of the year, I will gather some craftsmen to make this, and give it to Lao Chen to sell it. Just like pencils, we will take the path of small profits but quick turnover. I hope everyone can afford it. Huang Zhi sat down and asked, why take the path of small profits but quick turnover? These two things are unusual, and have never been seen elsewhere. Even in Beijing, it is unheard of. Even if they are more expensive, what's the big deal? Li Ju said, because they have different uses. Pencils are easy to use and save paper. If everyone can afford them, wouldn't everyone be able to learn to write and draw? This will be of great benefit to enlightening the people and educating the people. Soap can clean the body, especially the hands, feet, mouth, pots, and bowls. As the saying goes, diseases enter the body from the mouth. If people eat less dirty things, won't they get sick less? So, of course, the more people use these two things, the better. After Li Ju said this, Huang Zhi and Zhaoli immediately figured out the uses of pencils and soap. They are not just symbols of showing off status, but are indeed good things that benefit the people. The most commendable thing is that Li Ju knew that these two things could be sold at a high price, but he was ready to take the path of small profits, but quick turnover from the beginning, which shows his character. Huang Zhi said with admiration, "Brotherly has a broad mind. It is worthwhile to meet you. We came here in a hurry today, which is impolite of us. Xiao Dao and I will send you an invitation tomorrow and come back. We will definitely drink and chat with you." Chapter 33, Dyeing and Weaving. Chen is willing to risk everything to make money. Let's drink and talk happily. After several people sat down, Yu Yaoniang, Chusen and the mute started to run around. Sanjay was listening to things in the kitchen. If she wanted water or more dishes, she just asked Zhaolian to pass the message and she would make it and send it over. In a moment, the food was ready. The small pot was bubbling with potatoes, beef brisket, braised chicken and angpo pork elbow. The double-layered plates were burning under the fire and warming the side dishes on top. The aroma that had never been smelled before was overwhelming, making people's appetites grow. Li Ju introduced corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes and other things one by one, just to leave an impression on everyone. Before seeing the pareika yield in person, probably no one believed that the output of these things could reach 3 or 4 times or even 5 or 6 times the current grain output. So an impression is enough. After the food was laid out, Yu Yaoniang and others served wine. 4 people ate and drank, with various kinds of wine. Each person used a cup for each kind of wine. A total of 28 different wine glasses were used. There were celadon, glass, fine white porcelain, small cups with flower mouths, and small cups in the shape of leaves, with various styles, all of which were fine products from the modern industrial assembly line. The bottles of wine selected by Li Ju, some needed to be drunk hot, and some needed to be drunk iced, all of which had been processed. The first one served was the common yellow wine. Li Ju personally filled 4 cups, picked up the small celadon cup to toast the guests and said, "I'm happy today, and I specially took a few jars of wine from my hometown. This pot is Xiangsu wine. Although it is also yellow wine, the method is different from the common Huaduo. I don't have much left here. Please taste it, gentlemen." Compared with the common yellow wine at this time, this sweet wine made in the modern plane has particularly outstanding advantages. The wine aroma is stronger, belonging to the strong flavor yellow wine. It also has the flavor of other grains, and the taste is complex and layered. It is very sweet, and the taste is very rich and mellow. Huang Zhi and Zhaoli liked the Xiangsu wine almost immediately, but they were too embarrassed to ask for the recipe. Ran Chen didn't think too much about it. He just took a sip, and his eyes lit up. He immediately wrote it down in his little notebook. No matter what, he wanted to sell this wine. Li Ju only gave each of them a small cup, and didn't let them refill. Xiangsu wine is stronger than ordinary yellow wine. There are several more kinds of wine to come. We can't get drunk on the first cup. We must drink to our heart's content. In a few days, I will prepare a table of side dishes to go with the wine, and invite a troupe of actors. We can listen to the opera, watch the lanterns, and drink at the same time. Isn't it fun? Everyone agreed, ate a few bites of the food, and praised Li Ju's dishes for being very delicious. When half of the dishes were served, Li Ju asked for wine. There are many varieties of wine. Li Ju chose 3 types: dry red, ice wine, and pure red sweet wine. Dry red and sweet red are both blood red in color. When placed in a glass wine glass, they look like a pool of bright red gems. Ice wine is golden in color, with a strong aroma of honey and fruit. The luminous cup of grape wine and the tulip of Lanling wine are the best of both worlds. Zhaoli and Huang Zhi both showed a strong love for sweet red wine and ice wine. Wine is basically best drunk chilled. At this time, the banquet has reached its peak, the room is warm, and people are warm. They are even sweating, because of the previous Xiangsu wine, fragrant chicken soup, and spicy dishes. At this time, a few sips of cold fruit wine are as effective as eating an ice bowl in the dog days of summer, which is very comfortable. Needless to say, all kinds of wine were directly packed and sent to the two masters' house. Zhaoli ate comfortably, drank happily, and talked more. "You will be my brother from now on. I'll tell you quietly, there are some good things in this. You should prepare an extra portion for me to take away. It will be very useful. This wine is really good. Really good. Better than the imperial wine." Huang Zhi was obviously a little drunk. His face turned red. Li Ju didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and didn't dare to let them drink anymore, so he asked someone to collect the remaining wine. They only drank 5 or 6 cups of wine, but the meal was considered to be a great feast, and the host and the guest were all happy. After the meal, Li Ju asked his family members and Huang Zhi and Zhaoli's followers to help the two of them to rest on the Luohan bed in the living room. Before leaving, he read a prescription and asked Sanjiu to cook 4 bowls of sobering soup and send them over. The 4 of them drank the sobering soup with the threadbound book that Li Ju brought until the time pointed to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the clepsydra also reported the beginning of the Shen time. Seeing that it was almost dusk, Huang and Zhao got up to say goodbye. The mutant Chusen had already sorted and packed all the things for Huang and Zhao and handed them to their followers. The 2 guests stood up to say goodbye, and their followers could follow immediately with their things on their backs, without having to wait any longer. Li Ju escorted the 2 gentlemen all the way to the door of their house. Only after the courtesy was fulfilled could he sit on the Luohan bed and listen to Chusen and Yaoniang report today's expenses. It costs a lot of money to entertain and be a guest. The rich families have to spend money on interpersonal relationships. Their followers are here to accompany them at noon, so their family should provide meals, right? Eating and drinking tea cost about 2 cents per person, and a total of 2 cents of silver was spent. In addition, there were also tips, which also cost 2 cents of silver. When Ran Zhi Chen heard this, he said that it was considered a small amount. In the city, the rich families he saw sent people to greet their families, and the tips were more than half a guan at a time. The family members served meals, etc. 10 coins per person, and 4 cents of silver was spent. The gifts given out were even more. This was the master's private property. If a family's public accounts and private property were separated, the master only needed to remember this account, but Li Yuan was not separated now. Master Li thought about it, and still recorded it in the private account. After Li Ju finished calculating the accounts, and writing and drawing on the book, dyeing and weaving, Chen stretched out his hand. "Where is my share?" Li Ju rolled up the book, and tapped him with his paw. "No matter who is missing, yours will be indispensable. Since I have taken advantage of the local reputation today, the things I originally planned have to be moved forward. Money is indispensable for doing anything, so I have to trouble you to tire yourself out, and give some goods." Chusen drove Lao Chen's carriage to the warehouse, and Ada came to move the goods. Lao Chen followed the car, and I have to teach you how to use some things, so that you don't delay the guests. Chusen took the order, and followed the mute silently to the warehouse to move things. The mute actually knew exactly what was in the warehouse. He didn't know where Li Ju got those clocks and fireworks from, and he didn't dare to ask. He just respected the master even more. In the mute's heart, Master Li was like a god now. He was a god, a kind person, and he was kind to the poor people, and he also had those immortal tricks. Today was the same. Master Li was tinkering in the inner room, and the mute was squatting outside. The master and servant didn't say a word, and no one outside could know what was going on inside. Li Ju took out all the things from the warehouse according to the plan he had calculated, and together with the part that had been poured out when he made gifts for Huang and Zhao in the morning, the floor was full. After piling up all these, Li Ju asked the mute to come in and move the goods. He held the account book beside the carriage and recorded while explaining to Ran Zhi Chen how to use them, how many fireworks of this color or that color, how to light them, how to pay attention to safety and make sure they don't explode, etc. 10 boxes of 200 pencils with erasers, how to sharpen them, how to wipe them. 20 sandalwood soaps and osmanthus soaps, how to use them, and where to use them. The most important thing was the pile of clocks, several small single pendulum self-ringing clocks, a box of 12 pocket watches, and a large long pendulum self-ringing clock. Li Ju set the time correctly, tightened all the springs, and taught Ran Zichen how to read the time, and how to wind the springs. Because Ran Zichen could read, he also wrote 3 clock manuals for Ran Zichen, and told him to copy them several times, and bring 1 manual for each clock when he went out to sell goods, in case he didn't maintain them properly, and blamed his goods for being bad. In addition to the goods sent to be sold, Li Ju gave Dying Chen a small clock and a pocket watch. Together, these filled the carriage to the brim. According to Li Ju's request, the most valuable goods in this carriage could not be sold locally, but only sold to the prefectural capital and other prosperous metropolises. After listening to the usage for a long time, and estimating the value of the cart, Dyeing and Weaving Chen said, even the fireworks can be sold in the first month of the year. But I need to calculate the other good things carefully. If I wait for them to come to buy them as usual, I'm afraid I'll lose money. I'll have to go out myself. Dyeing and Weaving Chen took out a silver note from his arms and gave it to Li Ju. I know you may need money, master, so I'll put 100 taels of deposit here first. If it's not enough, you can come to my house to withdraw some. Whether I sell them or not this time, I will come back on the 2nd day of February to tell you about the situation outside. Li Ju agreed with him. Many things in the cart would be difficult to sell at a high price without letting people feel them in person. Dyeing and Weaving Chen was willing to go out for a trip because he was planning to sell things seriously. I will give you an extra 20% of this shipment. You will have to hire bodyguards and bring servants along the way, so the extra expenses will be on my shoulders. We agreed to support and help each other in the future, and our 2 families are inseparable. The extra share is my thank you gift to shopkeeper Chen. Dyeing and Weaving Chen waved his hand. I know your good intentions, so just wait for my good news. Chapter 34. This mystery is really unfathomable. Ran Zichen's plan is to sell pencils locally. This is a product with small profits but quick turnover. It is easy to use and does not cost much. It is best to sell more pencils locally. It is best to have local scholars and merchants slowly bring them to other places and slowly give them a name called Kingshan Pen, which will not only make the local area famous, but also help local people make money and eat. The benefits of soap cannot be seen. You have to use it to feel it. It is destined that this thing cannot be sold by shouting. Ran Zichen decided to take half of it to present to various wealthy families in the local area, and take the other half to other places for his peers to try. The rest are of course the expensive and luxurious things that Li Ju said should not be sold locally. After counting the goods, Ran Zichen was fascinated by the small self-ringing clock and pocket watch that Li Ju gave him. He vaguely felt that these 2 things were not ordinary, but if he had to say it, the clepsydra had the same function. So what exactly was the difference between the clock and the watch? He couldn't think of it for the time being, but it didn't matter. Timing was just a function. The other things revealed by these 2 small items were really expensive. He didn't pay much attention to it when he first got it, but when he played with it in his hands, he was more and more shocked. For example, the transparent lid on it was obviously not glass, but a transparent and extremely light thing, not stone, gold or cloth. The other components inside were even more exquisite. I don't know how such delicate things were figured out. Fine wine, good cloth, pencils, soap, exquisite objects. It's reasonable to take out only one thing. Who can have all their unique skills? But taking out so many at once, this is not ordinary. This mystery is really unfathomable. Zhaoli's father, Zhao County Magistrate, also expressed the same emotion. Huang Zhi and Zhaoli came with 1 person and 1 horse, and a few servants. It was simple. When they left, they were loaded with carts and horses, and everyone carried them on their backs. They returned with a full load, and they felt a little embarrassed. The 2 people who had been open-hearted with Li Ju felt that Li Ju was a sincere man when they unloaded the goods at home. Look at these solid and good things without any empty talk. Zhaoli ordered people to unload all kinds of stuff in the backyard and brought a cushion, to sit in the middle to unpack things by hand. In the era before express delivery and online shopping, Zayoli learned the fun of unpacking packages without any teacher. First, he unpacked a small package to practice. Yes, it was good wine, and there was a sign on each bottle of wine. Zayoli asked people to move the lantern over, and under the lamp, he carefully read the signs to see what flavor the bottle was, how to open the bottle, who it was suitable for, whether it should be drunk hot or cold, how much to drink at a time, how to store it. It was quite interesting. This is Xiangsu wine, a total of 3 bottles. Zayoli called his maid, Xiaokia, come here, write it down for the young master. Send 1 bottle of this wine to my father, and I will keep 2 for myself. Wrap 1 bottle in satin and a wooden box, and bring it to the school for the teacher to drink when school starts, and the other bottle for my own birthday party. Store them all in our cellar. A maid came over and took the wine. When she heard her young master remind her, don't lose the paper tag on the bottle, bring it with you, she became more careful. After opening the first package of wine, Zayoli opened another package. This time it was soap, which seemed to have several different floral scents. Men in this era also loved to dress up. Zayoli was spoiled, and was a leader among them. He wore fine clothes and hairpins with fresh flowers. This was not his life pursuit, but his current life situation. I'll keep 2 of each kind of soap for myself, and give 1 piece to my sister and my beloved. The rest will be given to my father and my mother. Little Kia. Zayoli called out twice, and another maid came over on her own initiative. Master, Kia has gone to bring wine to the master. Zayoli remembered that the one who had just left was Kia, so he asked the maid who came out to deliver soap to his sister, father, and mother. The next thing to open is a new kind of wine, and the label says fruit sparkling wine. What kind of wine is sparkling wine? Zayoli has never drunk it, but he saw that it says suitable for young people, suitable for both men and women, pure sweet, slightly alcoholic, and fruity. It is probably not much different from the common green plum wine. The most eye-catching thing is the glass bottle. Such a large transparent glass bottle is worth a lot of money. It is carved and matte on it. It looks very beautiful with the colorful wine. After drinking up the wine, it is also good to keep the bottle for flower arrangement. Let's see the suitable way to drink it. Iced. Keep a bottle of each color for yourself, and divide the rest among the family members, and there are still a few bottles left. Zayoli was feeling hot, so he picked out his favorite pink one, and asked someone to pry it open according to the instructions on the painting. He poured the silver marigold cup, and continued to unpack it, while enjoying the sweetness of some unknown fruit. He unpacked the pencils, and found a knife, to sharpen a few of them, giving 2 to his father and 2 to his brother, and saving the rest. He unpacked the tea leaves, all of which were teas he had never heard of before, and put them in his room, to ask the maids to brew them one by one to taste. He unpacked the pocket watches, 1 for himself, and 1 for his father. He unpacked the snacks, 1 box for his father, 1 box for his mother, 1 box for himself, and 1 box for his younger sister and younger brother. He unpacked 2 small self-ringing clocks, and asked the housekeeper to put them in the study. When he unpacked here, County Magistrate Zhao and his wife Chen came together. County Magistrate Zhao and his wife were chatting together at this moment. Chen was looking at the account books at home, and the county magistrate was looking at the account books of the government office. When the maid brought the wine, he still felt that it was okay. His son had grown up and remembered his parents when he had something delicious to eat and drink. When she got the soap, she was a little surprised by the fragrance and packaging. She didn't know what material the shell was made of, what dye was used to dye it so brightly, and she didn't know how the fragrance was made so fresh and clean. Chen opened a sweet-scented osmanthus soap and held it in her hand to examine it, and smiled. My son is really filial. I don't know where he found it. It smells so good and so real. County Magistrate Zhao said, it's only this filial piety that is good. Those articles he wrote. Alas. Chen was not happy. What's wrong with the articles? How old is he? Mr. Huang said he would do it, but you came to pour cold water on him. The county magistrate was a little henpecked. He nodded and said twice, and didn't dare to say anything bad about his son. Chen, on the other hand, asked Zhaoli's servant about the situation, and learned that he went out with Huang Zhi to make new friends. The new friends were generous and generous. They had a good chat, and stayed for 5 or 6 hours before leaving. He also explained in detail what kind of banquet they had, what kind of tea they drank, and what books they read. The couple felt relieved for a moment. With Huang Zhi accompanying him, he would not go to places he shouldn't go to, nor make friends with people he shouldn't make friends with. They were just a little worried about what this Master Li was planning, and why he was so generous. The servants and maids from Zhaoli's side were still sending things over continuously. Beautiful snacks, fresh fruits and vegetables, etc. When the sharpened pencils, self-ringing clocks, and pocket watches were delivered, County Magistrate Zhao could no longer sit still and hurriedly took his wife to the backyard to see what was going on. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. Attention from County Magistrate 1. Zhaoli encountered some minor troubles when he unpacked the last 3 bundles. Li Ju probably guessed why he wanted to take an extra copy when he was drunk. He probably wanted to give it to his father to honor his superior, that is, the local county magistrate. So Li Ju really packed an extra copy according to Zhaoli's request, and also attached a piece of paper to explain clearly, which probably meant an extra copy according to your needs. This small thing is not worth mentioning. Zhaoli never participated in his father's government affairs, and his father was not happy for him to manage these menial affairs. His father still hoped that his son would study hard, pass the imperial examination, and enter the political career seriously. If he really couldn't make it in the imperial examination, it would not be too late to go the way of a clerk. During that time at noon, Zhaoli really had a flash of inspiration. His father was the county magistrate, and his father's immediate superior was the county magistrate. It was impossible that the county magistrate used these new things and the county magistrate didn't know about it. And according to Li Ju's ambition, there might be some big moves this spring. If his father could be the matchmaker, there might be some benefits. What he didn't expect was Li Ju's honesty. He just packed it up and sent it over. When Zhao's father and mother came to the backyard, they saw their son staring at several unpacked packages. When they came closer and saw watches and wine, County Magistrate Zhao sat down next to his son and said, "Your new friend is very loyal." Zhaoli said, "He is really loyal, honest, and a good person. On the way back just now, Mr. Huang gave me a ride and said that Brother Li Zian has great ambitions." County Magistrate Zhao asked, "He doesn't know who your father is, and he doesn't ask you to do anything?" Zhaoli was very self-aware and said, "I don't know, and I can't ask for anything. Let's not talk about other things. The satin on me, and your father's flint with a beauty picture, and the big watermelon on our table yesterday were all got by Brother Li Zian. With these, he could ask anyone for help, but he had to ask our family?" County Magistrate Zhao couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Zhaoli continued to chatter, "I was drunk, and asked for a double portion, and hey, I really got a double portion. Dad, I think it's not enough for you to enjoy yourself. You have to give the master a portion as well, otherwise you will take out your pocket watch and see that it's now the 15th hour. The master will ask you what you are looking at, and you will have to explain, 'Oh, this is a pocket watch given to me by a friend of my good-for-nothing fool. I have a few more at home, I'll take them for you.' You finished talking, but does the master want it? If he wants it, wouldn't it be like asking for a bribe?" County Magistrate Zhao knew that his son was poor, but he had never thought of him being so poor. The tone of voice that imitated his speech was so lifelike that he was itching to do something, so he hit him with the paper on the head. "You are showing off. Oh, if the county magistrate asks about it, and I give it to him again, it will look like asking for a bribe. Then if I take the initiative to give it to him, won't it look like taking the initiative to bribe? Dad, how did you become the county magistrate? Why are you so inflexible?" Zhao Li hid from his father's papers and hid next to Chen, saying, "Why don't you say that I found something new and invite the master to appreciate it together? Let's not talk about anything else, just the pencil. Pencil, don't you see what it is useful for?" County Magistrate Zhao said unhappily. "What's the use? Draw your eyebrows and hair." Zhao Li smiled. "Then let me tell you about Brother Li's idea, I guarantee you will like it." So Zhao Li compared the benefits of pencil to his father in detail, and his father immediately thought of its use. "So, it's a good thing, it's worth everyone having one." County Magistrate Zhao deduced according to the logic that Zhao Li just said, it should indeed be beneficial to educate the people. Educate the people, these 4 words are multifaceted. This is the responsibility of scholars and the political achievements of the county magistrate. Zhao Li said. Brother Li Zan also said that we should sell soap and pencils at a low profit and high volume, and strive to make them affordable for everyone, so that Fushentang and nursing homes can also supply them. Second, we should open a workshop, hire workers to work, and pay them, so that the people can have more livelihoods. County Magistrate Zhao nodded repeatedly. Here's a person who cares about the people. He checked the remaining things in the bundles one by one, and made sure that they were all intact and brand new. He asked the servant to pack them back, and put them in the bedroom for safekeeping, and then hurriedly wrote a note, and sent it to the county magistrate's residence. County Magistrate Wang Yue was not a local, and lived in the official residence of the government office with his family. He did not go back to his hometown to visit relatives during the holidays, and he only had a simple meal with his wife, who was brought to his post as a reunion. County Magistrate Zhao sent a note saying that he would come to pay New Year's greetings on the 3rd day of the 1st lunar month, but he didn't expect that early the next morning, when he was still dazed, he heard the doorman say that the county magistrate had come. County Magistrate Zhao was so scared that he lost all his sleep. After a commotion, County Magistrate Zhao brought Zhao Li with him to the upper room to meet the guests. County Magistrate Wang sat alone in the upper seat, holding a pencil in his hand, lost in thought. When the county magistrate and his son came in to apologize, he came back to his senses, and said with a smile, "Why not? It was me who came uninvited, so I should apologize." County Magistrate Zhao and his son apologized, and sat down opposite County Magistrate Wang. The two had worked together for several years, and were very familiar with each other. They did not say any polite words, but just exchanged a few words, and got straight to the point. County Magistrate Wang picked up the pencil and said, "Is this the magical thing you mentioned?" "It is one of them. The owner of this thing, Mr. Li from Li Garden in the south of the city, named it pencil. Its ink and production are completely different from the existing brushes, and the way of holding the pen is also not exactly the same." County Magistrate Zhao had not yet learned how to use it, so he asked Zhao Li to demonstrate it. Zhao Li wrote a quatrain on the paper crookedly, while County Magistrate Zhao carefully discussed with the County Magistrate the benefits of pencils that he had just learned last night. County Magistrate Wang also guessed the advantages of pencils just by watching Zhao Li use the pen. His doubts were not that he thought this thing was bad, but something else. "This is a very good thing, but I wonder how much it costs. Pencil must be made of lead. I'm a little worried whether this thing is related to the elixir made by Taoist priests. You know that lead is expensive and poisonous. In the previous dynasty, there was even an emperor who died from elixir. I'm not afraid that Mr. Li will offer elixir. This dynasty does not allow this. I'm afraid that it is poisonous." County Magistrate Zhao said, "Since Mr. Li dares to say that he will make small profits but quick turnover, I'm afraid that the price will not be too high, and he himself uses this kind of pen very smoothly." County Magistrate Zhao paused and said to Zhao Li, "Dalang, go and ask someone to send Mr. Li's painting over." He said, since he is willing to use it, there should be no harm in explaining it. At this moment, Zhao Li took the instructions of Li Ju's painting from the servant and handed it to County Magistrate Wang for a careful look. County Magistrate Wang was first surprised by the painting and the explanatory text on it, and then saw several different pieces of paper, which were written densely. Obviously the person using it had no taboos, so he was relieved. Magistrate Wang asked again, However, what is the specific method of making a small profit? The outer layer of this thing is made of wood, and the inner core is made of lead. The core must be embedded. Such a thin and fragile core must be embedded in the wood, and it must be tightly fitted. I'm afraid that a craftsman can't make many in a day. Chapter 36 Attention from Jinling. County Magistrate Zhao didn't know how to make pencils so that they could be sold at a low profit, but in large quantities, so he asked his son to answer for him. Zhao Li was drunk yesterday, so he didn't think so deeply, let alone ask Li Ju what was going on. He could only guess and said, this son doesn't know either. But since Mr. Li sells hundreds of pencils, he must have a unique skill. If you want to ask, just ask him. County Magistrate Wang said, don't worry, what are we talking about now? Old Zhao, what else can tell the time, and what can clean the body? Just bring them all, and tell me in detail. There should be some things you don't understand, so it's a good opportunity to ask Mr. Li together. County Magistrate Zhao focused on the soap and Li Ju's theory of diseases enter from the mouth. County Magistrate Wang agreed with this at this time, because he also had a little knowledge of medical theory, and it was easy for him to understand that cleaning hands and mouth proposed by Li Ju could reduce the possibility of getting sick. However, the appearance and smell of the soap did not look like a product that could be sold at a low profit, but in large quantities. Instead, it revealed the temperament of a wealthy family everywhere, the neat carvings on the soap, the beautiful packaging outside. It did not look like something that could be bought with a few coins. Zhao Li demonstrated to County Magistrate Wang the ability of the soap to wash away the sludge. The elegant fragrance and the economical amount of use made County Magistrate Wang very satisfied, but when he thought of the price of this thing, County Magistrate Wang felt his heart ache. The wine that was carried later was not the one that County Magistrate Wang liked. County Magistrate Wang always believed that wine was brewed from grain. If a place did not have enough grain, but used grain to brew wine, brewing wine was no different from killing people. Therefore, County Magistrate Wang would only occasionally buy some aged wine to drink in good years, and most of the time he would not drink a drop of wine. He just said good to the wine that County Magistrate Zhao brought. The self-ringing clock and pocket watch that were delivered at the end immediately made County Magistrate Wang a little moved. There was nothing else. It was just that these two things were too exquisite, very suitable for sending festival gifts to the capital city. County Magistrate Wang was a clean-handed person, and Kingshan City didn't have any special products. He was reluctant to extort money from the people, but he didn't have the money to buy them, which worried him every year. This year, he had originally decided to ask Mr. Wu, the wealthy man who evaded the most taxes and was the most tactful, to import some exotic flowers and plants to finish the job, but now he had a new idea. What a coincidence that there was only one self-ringing clock, but there were two pocket watches. County Magistrate Wang could keep one, and the other could be used for 2 years. After looking at all these things, County Magistrate Wang had a rough idea. After thinking about it, there were only two important questions left. How much do pencils and soaps cost, and how much do they sell for? In addition, if they really make small profits but quick turnover, how much manpower would be needed? Would all the laborers come to work, causing farmland to become barren and food to fail? Zhao Li thought of the food on the table at noon and said, Brother Li Zan said that he has a kind of grain that can produce 1000 to 2000 kilograms per mu. We just have to wait for the trial planting to be successful this spring. If it works, we will send seeds to the farmers next year. County Magistrate Zhao glared at him unhappily. Shut up. What nonsense are you talking about? How can there be a grain yield of 1000 to 2000 kilograms per mu in the world? County Magistrate Wang said, it's not impossible. With the best fields, carefully tended and looked after grain by grain, there may be 600 to 700 kilograms of unhusked rice, which can be considered 1000 kilograms. It's not rice. Zhao Li argued unconvinced. Brother Li Zan made it himself. It tastes like crushed flower fruit. Some are sweet, some are crispy and sticky. It can be made into a meal, or as a vegetable or fruit. It is definitely not any of the grains you have ever seen. Oh. County Magistrate Wang hesitated. Are you sure he is not talking nonsense? Who knows? But since he has planted it in the spring this year, he will surely have a harvest in the fall. When the time comes, the county magistrate can watch him harvest and weigh it himself. Isn't that enough? County Magistrate Zhao was about to scold him, but County Magistrate Wang waved his hand to stop him. Just listen to it. Just listen to it. Since this strange man can come up with so many things that we have never heard of or seen, it shows that he is magical. If there is such a good variety, it is a great blessing for the people. You and I can only hope that he really has it, and there is no need to treat it as a joke. However, it would be great if we could see it in person and ask. Zhao hurriedly replied, "This is also simple. We originally agreed to drink. If you are free, I will send an invitation to invite him. How about it?" Magistrate Wang said, "That's not right. Regardless of whether the grain is real or fake, and regardless of whether these items are expensive or cheap, he has his own insights and is a remarkable person. How can we just invite him here and treat him like that? Anyway, the government office is quiet, so it's appropriate to send a letter to pay a visit. Besides, seeing is believing what kind of person he is. After looking at his family's property and the behavior of his servants, we can roughly tell something." Zhao nodded frantically. "Yes. Mr. Huang and I had the same plan. We just happened to come here today, and he hasn't made any preparations, so it's better to send a visiting card and set an appointment for a formal meeting. His food is excellent. I guarantee you won't forget it after eating it." At Zhao's instigation, and with a lot of questions waiting for Li Ju to answer, Magistrate Wang accepted Zhao's invitation to visit Li Garden together on the 8th day of the first lunar month. At the same time, Huang Zhi wrote letters to his friends in Qiantang, Jinling, and Wujiang at home to share what he saw and heard today, from the fireworks on New Year's Eve to the particularly simple Li Garden. The focus was on Li Ju's small profits, but quick turnover and the prospects of several items. A soap and a pencil were also attached to the letter. His master retired to Jinling after his retirement. Huang Zhi's master Yanan was the examiner for the imperial examination that year. The two were from the same hometown and had a particularly good relationship. Therefore, Huang Zhi also brought a self-ringing clock and instructions to Yanan as a gift with the letter. Regarding the output of new varieties of grain, Huang Zhi also mentioned it while he was drunk, but when it came to sealing, he deleted this paragraph and rewrote the letter. Let's wait a little longer. In case it is fake or something unexpected happens, it's not good to make people happy for nothing. Huang Zhi's letter and gifts attracted some discussion among the scholars in several places. Soon after, Dyeing and Weaving Chen brought the goods into Jinling. When he took out the clock and other things to show off, he found that Jinling had already talked about this thing, so much so that, when he took out the small self-ringing clock, the Jinling merchant blurted out "Sparrow clock." In the days after the New Year, everyone who visited Yanan's house to pay New Year's greetings knew that Yanan had a student who was a teacher in Qingshan County and sent him a timekeeping clepsydra with exquisite craftsmanship called self-ringing clock. Because there would be a fake bird telling the time every few hours, it was also called Sparrow clock. The Sparrow clock was accurate in timekeeping and exquisite in structure. Many people were asking where they could buy it. Before Dyeing and Weaving Chen made an offer, the merchant said, 800 taels for a Sparrow clock, 1 tael of silver for a soap. How much you have? I will take how much. Dyeing and Weaving Chen said, that won't work. I'm still going to Qiantang. Old Zhang in Qiantang is waiting for me to deliver the goods. The merchant didn't care who Dyeing and Weaving Chen had made the deal with, and he intercepted the goods. So Dyeing and Weaving Chen saved himself the trouble. After delivering the goods, he returned without stopping with the money. Chapter 37. The 3 magic weapons of the time traveler are not that simple. When the soap trend was blowing in Jinling, Li Ju was not idle. On the first day of the new year, no serious work was done because of entertaining guests. On the second day of the new year, everyone consciously started to do the unfinished things before. Sewing curtains and other things, washing and cleaning, etc. are all daily routines. Sanjiu and Yu Yaoniang put all their efforts into learning to cook. Shiba was also quite interested in cooking, and he followed Li Ju into the kitchen. In the end, it was Shiba who learned the most. Sanjiu and Yu Yaoniang were both poor people, so they were always a little too careful when adding oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and meat. Shiba was young and simple-minded. He did whatever Li Ju said, and his hands were smooth and the ingredients were rich and delicious. He learned Li Ju's true teachings. In addition to teaching cooking, Li Ju had two other things to do, drawing blueprints and teaching. At this time, the stone material shop was not open yet, and Li Ju was too lazy to ask for favors for the brick and stone matters, so he put the renovation of the living room and the renovation of the canal on the back, and put other things on the front. Every morning, Li Ju would teach the 6 of them to recognize words and recite in the main hall. None of the 6 of them had ever been to a proper school, and they didn't know what pinyin was. Li Ju taught them normally, and they just read normally, and they didn't think there was anything wrong. Pinyin was combined with simple poetry and literature, and then they were taught 1,000 characters and the Analects of Confucius. The progress of the 6 people, including the mute, was rapid. Studying is something that only superior people do. Everything else is inferior except reading. The master is willing to teach them to study, and they don't have to work for half a day of study. What reason do they have not to work hard? Yu Yaoniang, and Yu Yaoniang, and learn everything quickly. It's normal that they are a little slower in the 3rd grade. Sanjiu and the mute learn the slowest. They feel ashamed every time they make a lot of mistakes in dictation, but Li Ju doesn't think it's a big deal. He doesn't expect to teach a champion, but it's good for them to understand some principles, not be cheated in the future, and live a clear life. Among these people, Yu Yaoniang is obviously the most talented, but unfortunately she is a girl, destined to use this talent only on her husband or son. When Yu Yaoniang grows up, Li Ju wants to appoint her as the housekeeper of Li Garden. That is also a matter for the future, so let's wait and see. Classes in the morning, work in the afternoon. They go to do their own things, and Li Ju takes the mute to draw blueprints. It is definitely not enough to draw only one blueprint, otherwise if one person is looking at it, won't others read it? Li Ju draws one, and the mute traces it. The ruler and compass are all there. The mute learns haltingly, and finally learns it, and can trace it one to one without any difference. The structural drawings of the new living room are not difficult, but the drawings of textile tools are difficult. Li Ju originally wanted to improve farm tools, but after buying a full set of farm tools in this world, Li Ju found that, unless he got electricity, the most advanced manual farm tools would be like this now. Farm tools cannot be improved. What he can do is to improve the smelting level and parts processing level, so that farm tools are more durable, stronger and more efficient. Smelting level, forget it, a small blast furnace, how long will it take? Not to mention the spare parts. It's okay to produce pencils on a standardized assembly line, but it will take longer than a blast furnace to produce screws and the like. However, there is still hope for water-powered looms and mule machines, spindle spinning machines. These two things can greatly improve the efficiency of textile production, which means that they will impact the existing cloth economy system. Therefore, the premise of large-scale production of these things is that there must be industry that can absorb the surplus labor force and avoid unemployment. You can try it on a small scale. Just put it by the small river on the barren mountain he bought to absorb female workers. At that time, the workers will achieve economic independence while working and read books to understand reason. This is what Li Ju wants to see. The drawings of the textile machine are in the books in the warehouse, and Li Ju restored them, based on the records in the books. In addition to the drawings of the textile machine, there are also soap and pencil production. The process of pencils is relatively simple. Any carpenter can make slots for fixed length, fixed width, fixed shaped wood and bamboo pieces. Pencil cores are not difficult to make either. Just mix graphite and clay and burn them. Li Ju wrote down the production process and raw materials of pencils, and put them aside, staring at the blank paper, and thinking about how to make soap. He never thought of popularizing soap in ancient times. Not to mention the process problem. He couldn't solve the problem of spices. At this time, there were only natural spices. Whether it was extracting flower water, or buying medicinal materials, it would greatly increase the cost of soap. It was destined that soap could only be a luxury item for wealthy families, and soap could enter thousands of households. The mass production of soap was also problematic. Natural alkali was not difficult to find, and it could be entrusted to merchants to buy, but oil was not so easy to get. This was an era when people had to eat oil sparingly. The only land and labor force were given priority to food, and then to cash crops. Oil crops originally had limited grain production, not to mention that the grain production and oil content of oil crops at this time were not good. The oil pressing technology was still backward, and the oil yield was not high. Li Ju stared at the word oil on the paper, took inventory of oil crops, and finally added rapeseed, peanuts and soybeans to the farming plan. However, he still felt depressed when he thought of the oil yield. Forget it. If it really doesn't work, just take soap or something from the warehouse. There are quite a lot of these essential things in modern society, and they are definitely enough to stock for a while. The only problem is that modern industrially produced soaps are of good quality and uniform specifications. If they are the same price as the ones produced in ancient times, there will be problems. A simple soap has derived related industries such as the planting of oil crops and the improvement of oil extraction technology. The planting of oil crops has returned to the original problem, the increase in grain production. After writing the word grain, Li Ju actually felt a little relieved. According to his thinking, after the popularization of sweet potatoes, corn, and modern grain varieties, the grain production in Yu Yaoniang, the land of fish and rice, will increase significantly, which will make room for the planting of cash crops and solve the problem of low grain prices hurting farmers. It's not too bad. After sorting this out, Li Ju wanted to continue to sort out the production of cement. When the stone material store opens, the family will build a house and repair the canal, so the cement issue will be put on the agenda. Building bridges, roads, and embankments are all useful, and cement roads are undoubtedly of great significance to transportation in this era. What's even better is that cement is a low-tech product, and it still requires hard labor to make it in this era. It's also a good way to absorb labor. Li Jiu had just written the word cement on the paper when Shibalang, who was as lively as a puppy, knocked on the door. Master, Yu Yaoniang is here to visit you, and there are 2 masters with him. Li Jiu hurriedly said, please ask them to come in, and ask Yu Yaoniang and Sanjiu to prepare tea and fruit, and Ada to put away the things. Chapter 38, an old father who worries about his country and people. During the new year, Yu Yaoniang made another set of clothes for Li Ju, which was a turquoise jacquard satin quilted jacket and trousers, a white collared woolen Taoist robe with a red body, and an auspicious lion pattern embroidered on it, and an apricot white vest on the outside. When Sanjiu saw it, she asked Xiaolian to make a belt with red and green ribbons. Li Ju looked at the red and green combination, and his eyebrows jumped twice. With the mentality of a real man should not be fussy about trivial matters, he put it on, tied up his long hair, wrapped it with a headscarf, and straightened the stray hair. Looking at the big dressing mirror, he looked like a handsome young man outside. Master Li Ju finally became a thorough ancient man. Putting on a pair of shallow sheepskin boots, Li Ju went to the second gate to greet the distinguished guests. Before leaving, Yu Yaoniang chased him and handed him a big bamboo hat. There was still some light snow on this day. Zhaoli and his son and county magistrate Wang all came in raincoats. Chuzan and the mute on Li Ju's side were working outside, wearing rubber raincoats that Li Ju found in modern times. They were light and simple, but lacked some charm. County Magistrate Wang came today as an ordinary scholar, but the vague respect from Zhaoli and his son made Li Ju roughly guess his true identity. When Li Ju greeted them, County Magistrate Wang was facing the white ground in the east courtyard in deep thought. Zhaoli took the initiative to introduce the 2 parties. County Magistrate Wang saw Li Ju as a handsome young man, while Li Ju saw Wang as a scholar in a blue shirt, with a clear and sharp appearance, like an old father who was worried about the country and the people. This was a very wonderful sense of deja vu, which made Li Ju feel 3 points closer to this person. Zhaoli introduced Li Ju. One was his own father, who could be called uncle, and the other was an elder in the family, who could be called sir. Li Ju guessed that this middle-aged scholar was Zhaoli's formal master, so he saluted the 2 elders. Uncle Zhao, Mr. Wang. Magistrate Wang turned around and said with a smile, no need to be polite. I heard from you that you have met a generous and capable person. I also heard that you are planning to cultivate some good varieties and hire people to do some short-term and long-term work in the new year. I'm really curious. What you said is not very clear, so I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Li. Li Ju said I dare not and asked, why do you teach me, sir? I said that you left some vacant land in order to cultivate good varieties. You also said that the yield per mu of these good varieties is no less than 1,000 kilograms. May I ask, sir, are there such good varieties? Yes. I specially cooked some dishes with them today. Please taste them. Magistrate Wang asked again, is it more difficult to plant such good varieties than japonica rice? It is far less difficult than planting rice and wheat, and it is very rough to take care of. Magistrate Wang's breathing stagnated slightly, and he suspected that Li Ju was talking nonsense. Li Ju said, we will sow this spring, and harvest in autumn. You can come with Brother Huang and Brother Zhao to supervise in person, and you will know whether I'm exaggerating. Even if it is just to witness the birth of such a magical object, it is time to go to the scene, to see it in person. County Magistrate Wang said, I wonder if I can see how they look now? They are all in the kitchen and the cellar. If you want to see them, I will ask someone to bring them here. Li Ju said, and called Chusen to get potatoes, sweet potatoes and corn. He also specifically asked him to take a portion of the unprocessed, cleaned and steamed on the stove once. While Chusen was running errands, County Magistrate Wang was led by Li Ju to the living room, where guests were currently entertained. Li Ju's house was not small in his opinion. The living room was about 30 square meters and was divided into two parts by a screen. But in the eyes of County Magistrate Wang and others, it seemed very small, especially compared with the 3 acres of land in Li Garden. Li Ju's small building was simply the size of a wing room in an ordinary family. County Magistrate Wang sat down on the upper seat of the Luohan bed. Li Ju asked what kind of tea he wanted. Zhao Li said impatiently, milk tea. In the puzzled eyes of Zhao Li and County Magistrate Wang, Zhao Li added, it was made by Brother Li Zan himself. Smoked tea and milk are boiled together. Even if you don't like it, you can try it. It's just to broaden your horizons. County Magistrate Wang and County Magistrate Zhao readily agreed. Li Ju asked Yu Yaoniang to boil a pot of milk tea. This was prepared long ago. Li Ju said something, and Yu Yaoniang responded outside the door. After a while, she came with a glass pot and a tea tray and cups. In addition to the milk tea that Zhao Li and Huang Zhi drank last time, there was also black tea that was not mixed with milk for the two gentlemen to taste. County Magistrate Wang took a sip of milk tea and didn't like it very much, but he had to admit that this sweet and mellow taste should be the one that many people prefer. Then he tried pure black tea, but it was another flavor. County Magistrate Wang pondered for a moment. He himself preferred the elegant white tea and green tea, but he thought that maybe someone would like this rich flavored black tea. The county could produce tea, but the quality of the tea was always inferior to those famous teas. What if black tea was planted as a specialty of the county? Would Qingshan County have another way out? County Magistrate Zhao was happy. He and Zhao Li had similar tastes. He fell in love with the method of making milk tea at first bite. He wanted to ask for the recipe, but couldn't say it out loud. Zhao Li said, the fruity flavored black tea you packed for me last time tastes better. This one is too smoky. Hey, brother, when I went home and boiled the tea you gave me with milk, it tasted far worse than yours. What's going on? Li Ju guessed that the different results were caused by the milk powder he used, while Zhao Li used unpasteurized fresh milk, and said, you need to add sugar when boiling it. I'll copy the recipe for making milk and give it to you later. Zhao Li nodded with satisfaction, thought about it and praised him. The recipe for the egg cake you made last time was very good. My cook made it twice, and it was delicious. It's just that it takes 2 eggs and a bowl of white flour to make one cake, and I feel bad. Li Ju said, it was originally used to coax children during festivals. Who dares to eat it as a meal? In order for these things to taste good, sugar, oil, milk, eggs, and meat are the 5 things that need to be put in. They are naturally precious. It's also because I have many children, otherwise I wouldn't take it out. Upon hearing this, County Magistrate Zhao said, I have never met your son. I wonder if he is more sensible than me, this evil creature? Li Ju smiled and said, I'm not married yet, so how can there be a son? They are the children working in my family. Upon hearing this, County Magistrate Zhao's heart moved. Just as he was about to say something, Yu Yaoniang came to add water. After she left, Li Ju said, "This one just now is one of them. She had nowhere to go a few years ago, and I happened to meet her. I was also alone, so I took her in and treated her as a sister. The other ones are the same. This is the reason. It seems to be different from the others. Don't blame me, uncle." County Magistrate Wang was satisfied after hearing this. No matter what Li Ju really thought, he regarded the homeless poor people as his own children, which shows that he is a kind person. Chapter 39. Sir, you are truly a blessing to Qingshan County. After everyone tasted the milk tea and black tea, County Magistrate Wang was determined to turn this tea into one of Qingshan County's industries, so he asked Li Ju for a few more pounds and prepared to invite more people to taste it. Although Li Ju didn't know what he wanted to do with so much tea, he still agreed and asked Yu Yaoniang to get it. As soon as Yu Yaoniang left, Chusen came in with a basket and the mute came in with a food box. The two of them first performed a messy ceremony and then put the things in their hands on the table. Zhao was so angry that he thought about finding a boy from his family to teach these people etiquette. County Magistrate Wang was only focused on the things in the basket and didn't care. "Sir, uncle, this is what I called good variety. This is sweet potato with the highest yield per mu. We eat the part that grows underground, which can be washed and steamed or boiled. It is very sweet and can satisfy hunger, but if you only eat this kind of food for a long time, you will get sick. However, its vines and rhizomes are very cost effective to feed pigs." Li Ju took out the steamed sweet potato from the food box, cut it in half, put it on a small plate, and placed it on the table in front of Zhao and Wang. Yu Yaoniang came back and peeled potatoes, and after peeling, she also put them on a plate and served them. Li Ju continued to popularize potatoes while picking the leaves and tassels of boiled corn. "I call this potato, and the yield per mu is much lower, about 1000 kilograms. It is not very heat resistant. If it is planted here, we must pay attention to shade and prevent heat stroke. But it can be eaten as a staple food like rice and wheat." Li Ju talked about a lot of characteristics of potatoes, especially emphasizing the toxicity. It can also be eaten as a vegetable, stir-fried, and cooked with meat. After the two guests took a small spoon to scoop the potato core, Li Ju began to popularize corn. The yield of corn is relatively the lowest, about 700 to 800 kilograms. Compared with potatoes and sweet potatoes, corn is more like a generalist. It can be a staple food, a dish, a wine, and oil extraction. Of course, it is absolutely reluctant to use it for oil extraction at this time. The oil yield is too low. This era is not worthy of eating such precious oil. Corn has the highest universality and can tolerate various barren environments. As long as there is light and temperature, it can be planted everywhere in the country. Its stalks can be crushed and returned to the field to increase fertilizer, which is a benefit that potatoes and sweet potatoes do not have. County Magistrate Wang was stunned. He hoped that what Li Ju said was true, but was afraid that he was exaggerating. Even if it was the corn with the lowest yield, the 700 or 800 kilograms was nearly twice the yield of fertile rice. "Mr. Li, I'm really curious about how these three crops are cultivated and planted. Can I send someone to learn from you? In the future, when you sell good varieties, I will definitely buy them and try them myself." County Magistrate Wang said. "No problem, you are most welcome." Li Ju was worried that no one could be a crop planting technician. Mr. Wang was willing to bring his own talents, so he welcomed it very much. The only thing he couldn't tell anyone was his warehouse. Anyway, he had a mute, so he was not afraid of leaking the secret for the time being. After tasting the three kinds of cooked grains, he got to the point. It was the fancy things in Li Ju's hands. How much did the pencils and soaps cost, and how much manpower did they cost? Li Ju was very honest. He took out the business ideas about pencils and soap that he had just written from his study and explained to the two of them. Pencils are fine. All you need is graphite powder, clay, bamboo, and glue. No matter how troublesome it is, it only involves cutting bamboo, mixing ink, firing the refills, and assembling the finished product. It won't be too troublesome anyway. The only problem is that the pen will be thicker and uglier. Wang and Zhao nodded repeatedly. It was true. Toner can be purchased from merchants, and clay is available in abundance. It's not a very expensive material. Besides, The refills for a pen are not much, so they can rest assured about pencils. Li Ju took out the soap paper and said, I never thought of selling the soap I gave to Brothers AO to ordinary people. Both the fragrance and the base material are too expensive. Soap is only suitable for young masters and young ladies in wealthy families. I think the soap that poor families and charity organizations have is simplified. There is no fragrance, and the base material is the cheapest. As long as a soap that can clean hands, feet, mouth and face is made, it will be fine. Because its base material is oil, I will call it soap for the time being. Li Ju pointed to one of the two major components of soap, alkali, and said, wood ash, brine alkali, and oral alkali are all okay. You can buy them from other places, and a piece of soap will not use much. But the source of oil is more troublesome. Whether it is lard or vegetable oil, it is too expensive to use for soap. I think, after high yield grains are slightly popularized, we can plant some oil producing crops in the marginal fields, squeeze the oil ourselves, and then make soap. For 1 part of soap, about 6 parts are oil, 2 parts are alkali, and 2 parts are water. This oil is really not worth it. County Magistrate Wang calculated the weight of the soap inside. That's true. 1 pound of soap requires 6 ounces of oil. Even without labor and alkali, ordinary people can't afford it. But what are the oil producing crops you mentioned? Is it sesame or sesame? No. 1 acre of sesame and sesame can only produce 200 or 300 pounds, and the oil produced is less than 100 pounds. And it grows in the hottest time of June and July, which is not good. But if it is replaced with peanuts and rapeseed here, it will be different. 1 acre of peanuts can produce 600 or 700 pounds, and the oil produced can be 200 or 300 pounds, which is doubled. Although rapeseed is similar to sesame, it is planted in winter and harvested in late spring. After harvesting rapeseed, it can be interplanted with late rice or sesame. In this way, the output of 1 acre of land can be doubled, and I think vegetable oil will naturally become something that everyone can afford. Only then can it be used as a base material to produce soap. County Magistrate Wang was numb. What peanuts? He had never heard of them. Rapeseed, yes, but the rapeseed here is also called Yaoniang, and it doesn't produce oil at all. Li Ju also knew that he couldn't settle these people if he didn't show them the harvest, and he didn't think of convincing others that he could produce such a high yield crop with just a few words. So he put the oil crops in the autumn and showed them to people when he had evidence. However, Li Ju didn't give up the market for soap and daily chemical products. Since he would rely on this to absorb the market in the future, it was always right to spread publicity and build momentum in advance. This would require the use of soap from the storage center. There were about tens of thousands of boxes of half-pound soap in the warehouse. At that time, the daily chemical part of the storage center, the monthly shipment volume of a factory alone was 20,000 boxes, so the various transparent soaps and phosphorus-free soaps in the storage center were at least 40,000 to 50,000 boxes, which was enough for a short period of time. But how to whitewash the origin of this soap, Li Ju hadn't thought it through. At present, the most reliable way he could think of was to hire a bunch of blind people to unpack and repack, and then sell it at a price higher than the homemade soap in the future. The quality of homemade soap in the future cannot be compared with industrial products, so the price can only be pushed down to the lowest, which means that the price of this batch of industrial products cannot be too low. Li Ju said, I still have a lot of old goods at home. When spring comes, I will move them in one after another, and I will sell them at half cost price. A small family can use half a pound of goods for at least half a year, if they are used carefully. But we have to hire some people to clean up, and old goods have some shortcomings. County Magistrate Wang did not doubt him. Sir, you are a noble man. If you don't care about the people, these unique things can be sold at any price. Sir, you are not a greedy person, and you always think about the people. It is really a blessing for Kingshan County. Chapter 40 My way is the way no one has traveled. County Magistrate Wang was so excited that he praised Li Ju a few times, but this aroused Li Ju's suspicion. Li Ju had already guessed that County Magistrate Wang's identity was not ordinary, and the position of Kingshan County revealed in his tone made the circle of this identity even smaller. Ordinary rich people would not use the expression "it is my Kingshan County's blessing." and Chen Ranzi mentioned last time that Zhao was the son of the county magistrate. The county magistrate was here and was very respectful to this scholar. With several conditions added up, is there any need to guess the identity of this scholar? Li Ju said calmly, I dare not accept praise. I have never made any contribution. When everyone in Qingshan County can afford meat, have enough food, and wear clothes, you can praise me again, and then I will accept it. County Magistrate Wang felt that Li Ju was really capable and talented, and he was virtuous and humble. He was very pleased that the county could keep such a talent, and his favorability value was almost full. Li Ju took away the paper with soap written on it, revealing the paper with cement and concrete written on it. Although we cannot produce soap ourselves for the time being, and have to wait until the oil crops in Qingshan County have a good harvest, before it can be put on the agenda, the other magic weapon can be made with just labor. This thing can be used to build roads, embankments, and houses, and I will start trial making it before the spring plowing. County Magistrate Wang almost spit out his chi. Here, there are actually some good things that haven't been taken out. Li Ju seemed to notice his surprise and said with a smile, not only that, there are also recipes for smelting transparent glass, ways to keep warm in winter, and recipes for smelting iron tools, mainly used to improve plowshares and produce other precision tools, as well as equipment that can increase the output of cloth and yarn several times, and many small items. After raising the expectations of County Magistrate Wang and County Magistrate Zhao to the highest level, Li Ju changed the subject, but it's not the time yet. Take the loom for example. If there were such machines today, a few looms could meet the cloth needs of the entire city. Wouldn't the peasant women who rely on weaving for a living lose a way to exchange for food? If the land and food do not increase, what will they eat? A small family, where the man farms and the woman weaves, will lose half of its source of income. How can the people be at peace? Wang and Zhao thought about it, and realized that this was indeed the case. Li Ju's concerns were correct. Li Ju said, therefore, there is no rush. We still have to deal with these details first, otherwise it will not benefit the people, but harm them. I just got an idea, which is to use other sewing items to replace cloth. Nowadays, women also have to do chores at home, but chores are not valuable, and they can't be used as money as cloth. I will think of a way to let them make money with other methods, so that they have other ways to make a living. I will send the looms to solve the impact of the large-scale appearance of cloth on the livelihood of small families. After I think about this matter carefully and thoroughly, I will write it down as an article, and ask all the wise men to plan together. County Magistrate Wang nodded repeatedly and asked, but I don't know when the article you mentioned will be completed. Li Ju calculated this year's affairs and said regretfully, it will have to be next year at the latest. I don't know if the trial planting this year will be successful. If the grain harvest problem cannot be solved, everything will be empty talk. Only when the population increases to the point that the fields can no longer accommodate it, will there be people who specialize in craftsmen. Only when there is enough grain to feed everyone, will there be people who stop farming. We are walking a road that no one has ever walked, and it is really difficult. I cannot guess the harvest in autumn as I stand today, so the formation of this article can only be a matter of next year. County Magistrate Wang pondered for a moment and said, sir, just go and do what you want to do. If you want people, give them people. If you want land, give them land. I just hope that you can find a way for Qingshan County to have enough food and clothing for everyone. The father and son of the Zhao family were also very excited. If they could get involved in such a big event, how could County Magistrate Wang not remember them when he was evaluated and promoted in the future? His family wanted to break through Qingshan County and break through the status of a clerk. Instead of relying on Zhao to study, it would be better to rely on Li Ju to produce 3,000 kilograms per mu next year. We must hold on to this golden baby. The four of them were very satisfied with the trip to Li Garden, and each of them got what they wanted. Li Ju got the biggest backer in the local area. County Magistrate Wang found a hermit who could help him realize his political ambitions, and County Magistrate Zhao and his son boarded the biggest ship and set sail, which was just around the corner. County Magistrate Wang was full of worries when he came, and he was very proud when he left. When he arrived at the official residence, he immediately selected a farmer from his book boy and sent him to Li Ju's house. With the book boy, there was also his 1-year allowance and a letter. Li Ju was quite surprised. He knew that Mr. Wang was anxious, but he didn't expect him to be so anxious. It's good that people came. This young man named Azu just made up for Li Ju's lack of manpower. Azu is almost the same as the mute, and his personality is as calm as the mute. He is also familiar with farming. He is hardworking and smart. He is older than Chuzan, and knows more about human relationships than Chuzan. Moreover, he has the face given by County Magistrate Wang, so it is much more convenient for him to move around in Qingshan County. Azu was instructed to record the cultivation of Liuan truthfully, including the date and quantity, the number of seeds sown, the method of sowing, the number of people and livestock used, until the time and number of people spent on harvesting, all of which must be recorded in detail. Azu could recognize simple characters and write some common characters. Li Ju saw that his cultural level was slightly higher than that of the 3rd grade, so he was relieved to count him as a student and take classes together. Unfortunately, other things gradually came up, and he had to take care of the main business of the development plan first. At noon on the day when Azu arrived at Liuan, Wang Dechen sent the first batch of long-term workers to Liuan, including the 5 people of the Wu family and 6 other honest men. This time, Li Ju did not do much to recruit people, and left it all to Sanjiu, Chuzan and Yaoniang. How to choose a house to live in, how to distribute clothes and bedding, how to teach them to eat, drink, defecate, urinate and clean up according to the rules of Liuan, etc. County Magistrate Wang only told RZHU to write down the farm affairs, but RZHU inexplicably felt out the rules and practices of Li Garden, which were different from those of other places, were also worth noting. Like everyone in Li Garden, RZHU was assigned a room. He chose to live next to the 2 brothers Chusan, so that he could chat with them nearby. However, Chusan was tight-lipped and young, so it was absolutely impossible to talk about business. After trying 2 or 3 times without any results, RZHU did not force it. After everyone settled down, Li Ju took out a big list and gave it to RZHU and Chusan to register the population. They sorted the names in alphabetical order according to the pinyin, and all the information such as age, affairs, wages, appearance, residence, etc. were registered together. The female relatives registered with Sanjiu and Yaoniang, and those who were related would each make a note in each other's book and mark the location of the other party's information. When registering, if there are words that you don't know, use pinyin instead. RZHU discovered that the 6 servants in Li Garden could recognize and write. Sometimes, they would replace unfamiliar words with characters that he did not recognize and then ask Li Ju to make up for it. He thought that these 6 people had studied hard or followed Master Li for a long time. After asking, he found out that except for Yaoniang, the others had been in Li Garden for less than 10 days. Yaoniang had only been with him for a month. As for reading and recognizing characters, they only started to learn them after entering Li Garden. The speed and efficiency of recognizing characters were incredibly high. RZHU was one of the servants of the young master of County Magistrate Wang. He had followed the young master to school several times, and he knew how difficult it was to read and recognize characters. Because he listened to the lessons very attentively, RZHU knew more characters than other servants, and he was always very proud of it. The learning of the group of people in Li Garden made him doubt whether he was too stupid, and made him look forward to the classes and books taught by Master Li himself. Chapter 41, Prelude to Great Construction. Teaching all farmhands has always been in Li Ju's plan. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be Li Ju's lifelong career. However, modern students have winter and summer vacations, and this is a busy farming season, so Li Ju plans to take a vacation as well. In the days after the new year, he went to the livestock market to pick up the livestock and put them into the shed and divide them into pens, and then went to the carriage and horse market to pick up 2 carriages, and went to the stone material market to discuss bricks, stones, sand, and soil. In addition, the new group of people arrived, and there were changes in daily purchases. A series of things came at once, and the class had to be suspended. After spending a day registering and sorting out everyone's information, Li Ju began to arrange work. Those who can take care of livestock will take care of cattle, horses and mules. Unfortunately, there is no one in this group, so Li Ju has to arrange it himself and hand it over to experienced livestock workers in the future. Those who can plaster and build walls will follow the mute to repair the canal first and then repair the septic tank to prevent sewage from seeping out as much as possible. The female family members are responsible for cooking, and they will discuss the specific distribution among themselves. As long as the food meets the requirements, Li Ju does not intend to intervene in this matter. Those who can do needlework will make daily clothes and other cloth products, and may be directly transferred to textile workers in the future. Those who can burn kilns will temporarily prepare to learn to read, and learn how to burn cement, and go to the barren mountain to burn cement and bricks. When the operation starts, those who are steady will figure out how to plane out the wooden strips and slot the wooden strips needed to make pencils. The remaining people, those with less strength, run errands and sweep, while those with more strength go to the stone shop to unload stones, chop firewood, and do storage and transportation work for Lee Garden's public account warehouse. This warehouse is divided into 3 locations. The largest is behind the main hall, and the smallest is next to the kitchen. It stores Lee Garden's public property, such as food, cement, bedding, clothes, etc. There is still a lack of a financial accountant, so Li Ju appointed a mute to register. The mute even has eyes for Li Ju's storage. Like Yu Yaoniang, he has become Li Ju's confidant. Li Ju simply handed over Lee Garden's warehouse to the mute. If the mute is competent, then he can be the financial chief in the future, which is not impossible. In the end, everyone was assigned a job. Wu Dalang, who is good at breaking bamboo strips, was assigned to work on pencils, and his wife was assigned to sew clothes. At present, each of them only has 2 sets of clothes, which are 2 sets taken from a complete set of winter clothes. Li Ju gave them a set of winter clothes, 5 pieces each. If you take it apart, you can wear a jacket and trousers and a coarse cloth shirt, and a long gown and long cotton trousers. For Li Ju, this is still too little. People who work don't have to wear clothes all the time. Giving 1 set to each person obviously doesn't take into account the problem of changing and washing and damage. But there is no time, so just make do with it. In this era, it is the most common practice to change adults' clothes to children, and to give clothes to younger brothers and sisters when they are too small. Many people have never worn a complete set of new clothes in their lives. Therefore, after receiving the warm and light cotton jacket, and learning that each of the 5 members of his family has a set, Wu Dalang's mother, the old woman who is almost 70 years old, wiped her tears, and knelt down to thank Li Ju for his great kindness. Li Ju didn't dare to accept it, so he quickly hid away. After a few days, things in various places will gradually be arranged, and it is not known how many people will come. There may be a shortage of clothes. Those who received the women's work have been working seriously since the 2nd day they entered Lee Garden. The wife of the Wu family brought her daughter, and together with Sanjiu, Xiaolian and Yu Yaoniang, the 5 of them could do a lot in a day. Old Lady Wu's eyesight was not good, so she passed things to the female workers. Yu Yaoniang said that Li Ju meant that people over 65 years old could rest. Old Lady Wu herself didn't want to. It's not peaceful to lie in the house, and it's more like doing something. Li Ju heard it, so he let her go. When the novelty of the 2nd batch of farmhands wore off, everything had a rule. Wu Dalang and Shuzhen Teet, who vaguely became the head of the farmhands, told Li Ju that sometimes everyone had no work to do, and they were very nervous, afraid that they would be kicked out by the master if they ate nothing. Li Jiu asked RZHU and Chusan, "Have you found out the origin of the ink? When can it be shipped? How much clay can be produced in a day now? How many bricks and tiles have been fired? Have all the stones been shipped? How much bamboo and wood can the lumber yard provide? How much lime can be shipped in a day?" RZHU's mind turned, and he said, "I asked yesterday. There are several kinds of black and colored minerals. The coal produced in our county is. The sample of our county's coal is said to be delivered tomorrow." A merchant came from the south of Yunmeng Road and said that something called oil carbon is produced in the south of Yunmeng Road, which is very similar to the graphite you mentioned. The shop has sent people to Yunmeng South Road to pick up the goods. Now 1 cart of clay can be produced in a day. Because there are not enough people, the craftsman Meng Xianwang who washes the clay must be responsible for piling the clay on the cart and transporting it back. In addition, it has been cold recently. It won't take long for the fingers that wash the wet clay to become stiff and unable to bend. In addition, the master stipulates that a person can only work for a maximum of 5 hours a day, so he leaves early and returns late, and can only wash 1 cart of good clay. In RZHU's opinion, Li Ju was too good to the farmhands. Farmhands of ordinary families got up early and worked late, and the working hours were at least 3 hours longer than those of Li Yuan. As for food, clothing, and housing, there was no need to compare. Other families had 2 meals of cold bean rice, while the Li family had 3 meals of good meat and vegetable meals. Other families gave their children 3 sets of clothes a year, while the Li family arranged for these farmhands to change and wash at least once a year. The farmhands of other families lived in animal sheds or firewood rooms, while the better ones lived in the back house outside the second gate. They lived in a proper house, which was tightly sealed, and had windows and doors, and the bedding was all new. RZHU couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Even the farmhands of Li Yuan felt that they had failed the master, and they often felt ashamed, whether they were paid or eating. This was exactly the case with Meng Xianwang, the craftsman who cleaned clay and sand. On the first day of work, he spent half a day looking for a suitable clay source by the river in the barren mountain. He kept panning there until dark before returning, and only got a cart of clay that met Li Ju's requirements. He was very uneasy when he returned home. Of course, he worked hard, but the result was like this. Meng Xianwang was afraid of being beaten. He used to work in a pottery kiln, and the foreman would beat and scold him at will. Even if he did nothing wrong, he would inevitably suffer a hard time if he met the foreman or the owner was in a bad mood. As for the wives and daughters who were taken away, and the masters who were beaten to death for talking back to the masters or breaking porcelain, there were no telling how many. Meng Xianwang chatted privately with the people who came to Li Garden with him, and they all felt that there was no such kind person as Li Ju in the world. If they were given good food and drink, there would always be other places to make up for it. Maybe he just expected them to work more, etc. Therefore, after Meng Xianwang reported that he only got 1 cart of clay after panning and screening yesterday, he was anxiously waiting for the master to speak. RZHU also told Li Ju the truth about Meng Xianwang and the others. Li Ju frowned as he listened. It takes eyesight to identify the quality of clay and sand. I heard that only he can do it, so let him do this. If there are others who have nothing to do for the time being, they can go to the clay area to help sift and clean the clay, or carry it back and forth, dry it and spread it out. There is nothing wrong with changing the work temporarily. RZHU calculated the work of Wu Dalan and the others, and felt that he didn't know it clearly. He was really ashamed, and replied, I really don't know who should go with us. I can only see that Wu Dalan doesn't have enough time to split bamboo poles, split wood strips, and cut grooves. It's really hard to arrange anyone else. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42. Pinayan ignored by others. Scheduling multiple shifts does involve some math problems. Apart from Li Ju, only Xiao Lun, who had just gotten a glimpse of the process, could figure it out. Li Ju took over AZHU's notebook, counted the number of people, and said, these 3 people who are responsible for cleaning the garden, chopping wood and carrying water, 1 is free in the morning, 1 is free in the afternoon, and 1 will be free tomorrow after the stones are unloaded. So there are 2 people who can be sent. Li Ju made a grid on the paper, arranged the tasks horizontally according to the time, and filled in the names of the people in the intersections. This was the shift schedule for who did what at what time and place. Graphite powder has not been found yet, and 3 full carts of clay for burning pencores are enough. If there are more, our house will not be able to store them. 1 cart today, another tomorrow, and after the transportation is brought back, let these people continue to mine clay for the cement kiln over there. In a few days, when the chicken feather house sends more people, first build up the earthen kiln over the barren mountain, so that a batch of cement can be burned before the spring plowing. So the shifts are arranged like this. Chosen, wait for Meng Xianwan to come back, and tell him that he must teach 2 people to distinguish clay, because the amount of cement will increase in the future, and he alone will not be enough. Chosen took out a notebook and quickly wrote it down. Li Ju added, in the future, I plan to set up a school for all kinds of skills in Li Garden. By then, those who have skills will not be afraid of starving to death when they are old and have no work to do, nor will they be afraid of starving to death by teaching apprentices. Only in this way, more people can make more money. As for why more people can make more money, Li Ju did not explain in detail, and it was not the time to explain in detail. After finishing the small things, Li Ju took care of the distribution of work for other people. The extra manpower was all counted for the preliminary preparation work on the barren mountain. Then Li Ju found that he had too few people, so the kiln construction and mud washing could not be carried out at the same time, and the canal and septic tank construction and the construction of houses on the barren mountain could not be carried out at the same time. If he wanted to keep some time every day to keep up with the progress of the class, the available time would be even less. Chusan, go ask Wang Dechen tomorrow when the next person will come. The barren mountain is ready for land reclamation. The brick kiln needs to build a few houses for the people who open up the land. The foundation will be dug in the next few days. By then, it will take 5 or 6 people to unload and load goods, dig clay, and burn cement, and 3 more to prepare the land. There are not enough people. Chusan nodded and wrote this down in his notebook. RZHU also noticed that Chusan and others all had their own small notebooks and pencils, which were usually placed in a cloth pocket and taken out when needed. Li Ju often arranges work casually, and this book can ensure that nothing is missed. The people in Li Yuan are very efficient, which is related to the literacy rate and simple pencils and books. And the special characters they use obviously play an important role in recording things. As who has a hunch that the symbols used by the people in Li Yuan may be more important than pencils and soap. County Magistrate Wang sent Azu here, mainly to let him understand farming to confirm whether Li Ju was cheating him, and he had no other plans. County Magistrate Wang did not want to do business, nor did he plan to inquire about Li Ju's unique secret skills and formulas. He was a noble scholar. In addition to being loyal to the emperor and serving the country, he also cared for the people and herded the people. Azu always felt that County Magistrate Wang was a little too gentlemanly. When he was sent here, he was ready to be guarded everywhere, but he didn't expect Li Ju to treat him like his own. Li Ju did not treat Azu as an outsider. Except for the most core storage center, nothing else was kept secret from Azu. ZHU looked at the to-do list written down by Chu Sanlang, and couldn't help asking, Chu Sanlang, what do these words mean? I haven't seen them before. Ah, this is Pinayan. I don't know how to write the word brick kiln that the master said just now, but I can spell it. Just put it together. Look, ZH is on the left and UAN is on the right, and it spells brick. When I have time, I will ask the master how to write it. ZHU has studied, so he immediately understood what it meant. In ancient times, there was actually a way to annotate characters with pronunciation very early, which is generally called the fan key method. The fan key method is to use 2 common characters to annotate a character, one of which takes the initial consonant and the other takes the final vowel. For example, which means that the initial consonant of the character is the same as and the final vowel is the same as, which together is gang. In order to avoid too many phonetic characters, there are special fan key characters, but even so, the fan key characters themselves are also characters, and they also need to be recognized, and there are quite a few of them, so they are mainly used by scholars. Li Yuan's phonetic spelling is essentially the same as the fan key spelling, but it uses very few characters, only about 20 or 30 in total, and is easy to write. Chu Sanlang taught RZHU the few characters he had used on this page, and RZHU could immediately recognize the phonetic symbols on another page, and understand what they meant by combining the context. If all books have phonetic symbols, then as long as you learn these 20 or 30 symbols, an illiterate person can recite the 4 books and 5 classics. RZHU wrote this note down, looking forward to what Li Ju said. We will have to go to school for 2 hours every day after all the staff arrive. After sorting out the only 17 people and the work in RZHU's hands, they worked according to the reorganized division of labor in the afternoon. That afternoon, the mute and a later mason began to process the water channel, using the newly delivered stones and the cement that Li Ju took out from the storage center. No one had ever seen this grey-green mud, and after listening to Li Ju's description, they could not imagine how this grey stuff could easily reach the solidity of rammed earth. Li Ju was different from other masters. When he was free, he would also participate in the labor. For example, when mixing cement, he not only explained it clearly, but also demonstrated it himself. Dyeing and weaving Chen rubbed his hands to tell Li Ju the good news. He was taken to the cement mixing site by Shibalang, and his eyes were about to fall out. I saw Master Li rolling up his sleeves, wearing a grey and shabby clothes made of unknown cloth, mixing mud. Dyeing and weaving Chen also had a dyeing workshop. As a very qualified businessman in the dyeing and weaving business, he himself had mixed dye vats, woven cloth, and spun thread. This is the trend of merchants and workshops in Jiangnan. The master and the shopkeeper are the same. If you don't do it yourself, you will be easily deceived. Moreover, when it comes to the busy farming season, in order to produce more goods, the master is willing to join the battle with the whole family. But dyeing and weaving Chen is a businessman looked down upon by outsiders. In their view, in order to make more money and reduce the possibility of being cheated, it is right to work personally. Master Li is not like that. Mr. Li also taught the servants and maids in his house to read. In the eyes of dyeing and weaving Chen, he was at least a scholar among the landlords. There was still a gap between landlords and businessmen. Small landlords often went to the fields themselves, either to harvest or water, but the big landlords were not satisfied with the money and servants, so how could they do such dirty work as mixing mud themselves? Chapter 43, Underestimated Concentration of Wealth. Dyeing and weaving Chen came to the door with a happy face, and the time was much earlier than the agreed time. Li Ju guessed his purpose. After confirming that the mute and the other plasterer had learned to use cement, Li Ju put down the hoe in his hand and led dyeing and weaving Chen back to his small building. On the way, dyeing and weaving Chen couldn't help but started to nag. Why are you still working in the fields by yourself? It's so dirty. What kind of mud is that? It's so grey. Li Ju said, I can do what they do. Don't talk nonsense. Why did you come back so early? Could it be that the goods were sold as soon as they were pushed to Jinling? You don't allow me to keep it a secret, but you guess it yourself. Dyeing and weaving Chen failed to whet Li Ju's appetite, which was a bit regrettable, but he was very happy when he talked about the business. This time, I have to thank Mr. Huang. Fortunately, I thought that my old friend was in Nanjing, so it would be safer to go to Nanjing to sell half of the goods to him. When I arrived in Nanjing, hey, what a coincidence, the business in Nanjing was looking for some clocks and some soaps all over the world. I asked my old friend, and it turned out that Mr. Huang's teacher, Mr. Yu, was also in Nanjing. Mr. Huang gave all those new things to Mr. Yu. Mr. Yu is a very famous person, with many students all over the world. Even if he didn't show off, the students who came to pay New Year's greetings and their families would have spread the word of mouth when they saw it. That's why I said that I had a few cabals. Nanjing calls yourself ringing clocks by this name, and the business immediately bought them all. Guess how much that cartload of goods was sold for? Dyeing and weaving Chen's story was vivid, and he had a talent for comedy. Li Ju was thinking about writing a crosstalk script for him to play with, which might even become famous throughout Jiangnan. He only said, I estimate that one clock is about 200 or 300 taels. I gave you 5 table clocks, a long pendulum clock, and 12 pocket watches. The others are just extras. 2000 taels? 2000 taels? You really underestimate the wealth of the ancient capital of the 6 dynasties. A long pendulum clock sold for 1600 taels. Small self-ringing clocks sold for 800 each. The old friend bought it all. When I came back, I heard that his colleagues came to visit and almost had a fight over the clocks. The clocks of all sizes, including fireworks and soap, totaled 7200 taels. Ramsey Chen was so excited that his face turned red. He took out a stack of silver bills from his inner pocket. I was in a hurry to come back, and I was afraid of robbers on the road. I didn't dare to let the news leak out, let alone bring back such a heavy amount of silver. I didn't exchange it, and brought it back directly. If you want to exchange it for real gold and silver, we have to think of a foolproof way. Li Ju was so shocked by this number that he was speechless. He vaguely remembered that in some ancient novel, a self-ringing clock was pawned by the heroine for more than 200 taels of silver. Although the price of the pawned item was low, the self-ringing clock of the rich family was of course made of gold, silver, sandalwood, and extremely expensive, and could not be compared with his modern cheap goods. Therefore, he estimated that his self-ringing clock would be worth at most 300 taels. As a result, this number was called for in Jinling alone. Li Ju's brain was numb. After a few steps to the small building, Li Ju called Yu Yaoniang to do the work in the corridor at the door and looked around. He opened the door, lowered the warm curtain, washed his hands and face first, then changed his clothes, and came out to carefully discuss the sale of goods. In Jinling with dyeing and weaving Chen, Li Ju found that he seemed to have underestimated those things in the storage center that did not require plugging in, and underestimated the level of the current rich. It is true that the world has been peaceful for only 30 or 40 years, and it is far from its heyday. However, hard currency, gold, silver and jewelry will not decrease much due to war. On the contrary, because the population is small, wealth is more concentrated. For example, farmers now have a lot of land, which can basically make a living. Because land annexation has been broken up, the court has light taxes and levies, and productivity has also improved. Whether it is unowned land or self-cultivation, farmers hold land. The same is true for wealthy families. When a country is newly established, it is not too much for those who have conquered the world to share the wealth of the previous dynasty, right? A group of top wealthy families have formed. After 30 or 40 years, these wealthy families will generally experience 2 or 3 divisions, resulting in a large number of new wealthy families, and the dandy sons and prodigal sons can almost have 1 or 2 generations, and people who are willing to spend money have appeared. In addition, the court was most eager for talents in the early days, and talented people were promoted very quickly, which would produce a large number of new officials and new nobles, a new generation of nobles who were rich, powerful, and ambitious. As the number of newly promoted nobles and officials continues to increase, the land will gradually be concentrated in the hands of a few people, and a large number of farmers will lose their land. At the same time, the country's fiscal expenditure is also increasing, but the tax revenue will decrease. Because the nobles and wealthy classes who hold power will never let the country's tax collection become theirs, the taxes provided by the land, annexed by the upper class are getting less and less. At the same time, the farmer's land is reduced, but the taxes are more serious. When they can't survive, the peasant uprising breaks out. Why do peasant uprisings in all dynasties always raise slogans related to land? Because the peasants who were forced to revolt in the later period had no land. Every dynasty started like this, and ended like that. Li Ju felt that his thinking should change. After completing the early preparations, he could completely break the development law that had appeared countless times. Dyeing and weaving Chen had already counted the silver bills and stacked them neatly on the table according to their denominations, saying, "Hey, what are you thinking about? Collect the money and divide the accounts." Li Ju didn't think twice and directly took out 3 bills with a denomination of 1,000 taels and gave them to him. 20% as the extra income of 1,404. 10% as a share of 720 that was agreed to be yours, and the rest is for the round trip fare. I know there is more. The extra part is to thank you for using your connections to sell things for me, and, as we said last time, if you agree, the sale of goods and the management of my Lee garden will be handed over to you in the future. Dyeing and weaving Chen was a very down-to-earth man, and he couldn't wait to become sworn brothers with Li Ju. He rubbed his hands, and his already smug face turned even redder. How can I explain this? Without me to sell things, your family can just find another merchant. If I don't have these rare treasures in your family, I would still be a dyeing and weaving merchant who runs a cloth shop, earning only a few thousand taels of silver a year. Brother, you ask me to be this merchant because you think highly of me. From now on, we will be brothers who share life and death. Li Ju nodded. Okay, then the first thing is to visit Mr. Huang and thank him for his recommendation. After this is done, it should not be the 15th day, and the things I have prepared here are not finished yet. Brother, go home and accompany your wife and children first. Just help me think of one thing. Among these things I took out, except for pencils and soap, and the cheap version of soap in the future, is there anything else that can be branded with a Kingshan County brand? I want to leave an impression on people outside that Kingshan County produces novel and useful things, so that you don't have to go out to do business, and they will naturally gather around to take the initiative to receive the goods. But I'm not familiar with the situation outside, so I can only rely on you to think about it. Dyeing and weaving Chen also knew the reputation of Susao and Hangzhou as the source of silk in the world. As soon as Li Ju said it, he understood it. Just like silk brocade must be bought in Gusu and Qiantang, just like if a piece of cloth is said to be produced in Qiantang Prefecture, everyone will believe that it is good satin. Some things are firmly tied to place names in this way, and without people knowing it, they become things that revitalize the local economy. For example, Hu brushes, Duanang stones, and hairy crabs from Yangcheng Lake. Dyeing and weaving Chen nodded and said, okay, I'll think about it when I get back. But, Mr. Huang's thank you gift is not easy to think of. Mr. Huang is not interested in beauty, nor is he greedy for money. He has curiosity, but it's enough to satisfy it. He doesn't pursue anything too much. Just like your Xiangsu wine, Mr. Huang likes it, that's it. It doesn't matter if he can't drink it. Mr. Huang is a scholar who only works hard on poetry and books, a real and pure scholar. Li Ju said, since he is a scholar, he has a school of thought. What books does Mr. Huang like? What books does he hate? Dyeing and weaving Chen Dao. Speaking of this, it is exactly what is admirable about Mr. Huang. Mr. Huang had a famous saying in his early years, what can be said is truth, and what can be written is an article. There is no distinction between high and low in learning, and no restrictions on schools. Any book is good, even if it is nonsense. Mr. Huang still retains a sense of awe. Alas, it is Mr. Huang's open-mindedness that has not helped him improve in the exam. Mr. Huang said that it's not that he doesn't know how to write an article and how to answer questions, but he is unwilling to do something against his will. Rather than walking alone on a path he is not passionate about for decades, it is better to go home and teach. Chapter 44. Li Ju, the not a plagiarist. What gift should I give to a scholar who enjoys poetry with meals and drinks with literature? Li Ju thought for a while, and then he had an idea. After thinking about it in the storage center, he said, that's easy. There are many things in my collection of books that are not available outside, including astronomy, geography, poetry, and songs, and even dramas, novels, and legends. I'll find a few to put together a set, and think of something special to give to the old man. Dyeing and weaving Chen said, that's great. We'll have gifts for the 3 festivals and 2 birthdays in the future. And, maybe we can show our face to Mr. Yu? Old brother, you see, Mr. Huang wrote a letter to Mr. Yu and sent a copy of the soap when he got it, which shows that the relationship between the teacher and the student is very good. If we can interact with Mr. Yu, hey, then we will really have a bright future. We can take Mr. Yu one step further. Dyeing and weaving Chen chatted with Li Ju about how to deal with business and interpersonal relationships this year. It was late, so they stayed in Li Garden for a day. The next morning, he went home happily with the task and banknotes assigned by Li Ju, and went to warm his wife's bed. Li Ju calculated the income and expenditure, and thought about what book to give to Mr. Huang as a thank you gift in front of the books in the storage center. Considering Yunan's existence, it is worth his time to think about the exchanges with Mr. Huang. Giving poems is the safest, but you need to pay attention to whether the illusions used can be recovered. A collection of poems can be sent up, of course. It can exist in this world, and it can also exist in this world. Just say that it is a family collection, and it can be covered up. The problem of drama scripts is the same as poetry. The main thing is to pay attention to whether there are any extraordinary allusions used in the story. But compared with poetry, drama scripts are long after all, and it is very troublesome to check and handle. Poetry is different. Poetry can be copied one by one, and it counts as what is copied. Who cares about the length? As for other academic works, relatively simple and clean articles, Li Ju sold a few copies to raise money before, and the rest are more professional or in-depth articles. He dare not take them out for the time being. He was not familiar with the theories of this world. If he copied something he shouldn't have copied, for example, if the opinions of a celebrity in this world and the same person in that world were inconsistent, but he copied the opposite opinions, it would be a pain in the ass. He would have to think for a long time just to explain the reason. However, when the basic natural science textbooks used by Li Yaoniang are compiled, he can send a copy to Huangjian. Natural science knowledge is the safest book. Thinking of this, Li Ju had an idea. This time he sent a book of poems and verses, and copied the poems and verses related to the Spring Festival and the Lantern Festival into a book. He only said that he saw a collection of poems and verses handed down from his family and sent it to him. It would definitely have a king level effect, because, from what he had quickly flipped through in the bookstore, there was no Zinkaji and Aoyang Xiu in this world. The two masterpieces. Looking back suddenly, that person is in the dim light and the moon is on the willow branches, and people make appointments after dusk have never been published. Li Ju spent a day working on this collection. He paid a calligrapher in a pen and ink shop to copy it in the most formal handwriting, and found a box with mother of pearl phoenix patterns to put it in, and sent it to Mr. Huang's house. The influence of top-notch poetry is huge. On the 10th night of the first lunar month, Li Ju sent a thank you gift. Starting from the 11th day, the singing girls in the bookstores, music halls, and wine shops in Kingshan County all sang "The East Wind Blows Thousands of Flowers at Night," and last year in January, the lights in the flower market were as bright as day. Mr. Huang, he brought Zhaoli to visit again. As soon as he entered the door, before he even exchanged greetings, Mr. Huang couldn't wait to say, "Who is Xinjiaxuan? Can we have a chance to pay homage to the master of poetry?" Look, this puts the title of Master of Poetry on Old Xin. Li Ju went to the living room of his small building to greet people and said, "If you are not immortal, I'm afraid there is no way to meet you. Such a master of poetry, how come we have never heard of it?" After reading thousands of poems, and there is Wen Zhanggang, his lyricism is so sincere. I wonder who this literary saint is. Li Ju spoke immediately. I also discovered it by chance from my ancestor's collection of books. It is a set of books called Song Dynasty Records, which has thousands or hundreds of volumes. I first found a volume of Jiaxu and Changdianju and a volume of Wen Zhanggang CI collection, which were recorded in the poetry part of Song Dynasty Records. Because I just found it 2 days ago, I only picked out a few poems to suit the occasion. What book is Song Dynasty Records? I don't know. I was rummaging through boxes and cabinets the other day, and saw the collection of essays first. It looks like a legend to me. The author seems to have written various stories that happened in a country called Song. I haven't read the things in it in detail. This author is really amazing. He wrote so many good poems while writing stories. I think that the poets should be real people. For example, the poems of Jian Jiaxi are also included in the collection. But for some reason, the poems of Jiaxuan and Wen Zhanggang have not been passed down until I discovered them recently. Anyway, after dealing with this matter, Li Ju picked and chose from the warehouse, and finally chose Jiaxu and Changdianju and Aoyang Wen Zhanggang CI printed in the Qing dynasty. They are not from the same period, but they are old, broken, and in poor condition, and there are no annotations. They are old, broken, and even have traces of stains. Although the store that collects these books has tried its best to repair the ancient books, some regrets cannot be repaired. This is a good thing for Li Ju. If there is a problem, just blame it on damage. Huang Zhi got the 2 books and couldn't wait to open them and read them. I didn't think much of the previous Xiaobian, but when I saw the He Xinlang volume, I couldn't help it. First he clapped his hands, then he cheered, and then he sang. When he came to the line "The general's body and reputation were ruined after 100 battles," he looked back at the river bridge, thousands of miles away, and his old friends are gone forever. He could not help crying. Then he went to the line "I pity you the most for dancing in the middle of the night. A man's heart is as hard as iron until he dies." He jumped straight to the ground and shouted, "Good, good. A man's heart is as hard as iron until he dies. A real man should be like this. How generous, how heroic. It should be made public. How unfortunate I am. I have wasted so many years and only heard of your work. Zayoli also read the 2 poems and understood why the master lost his composure. He said, unparalleled works. How did you get them? Brotherly Zion, you didn't show us such a good article first, but kept it at home. I think you should be punished with 3 glasses of wine. The two were happy and sad at the same time, almost a little crazy. Li Ju shook his head and asked Yaoniang to go to the kitchen to prepare some side dishes. He picked a jar of Xiangsu wine and sent it to the kitchen to be heated up and sent it with the side dishes. Good wine and good sentences made the 2 scholars drunkenly gardened, not knowing how many years had passed. They stayed for 3 or 5 days, copied the 2 collections neatly, and told Li Ju to sort out the song Guozhi as soon as possible, and then reluctantly said goodbye and went home. Chapter 45. The Song of Jiangnan Jiaxuan's Poems. As Li Ju and Ran Xichen expected, Huang Zhi copied 2 books and went home, and immediately copied another one, and sent it to Yu Yaoniang, in Jinling as fast as he could. Yu Yaoniang's female troupe quickly played and sang, and everyone in Jiangnan competed to copy these 2 collections. For a time, paper in Jiangnan was expensive, and people in the streets and alleys were either singing the sorrow of separation is gradually far away with bamboo, flutes and string music, or singing drunk, and looking at the sword by lamplight, while clapping their teeth. Huang Zhi mentioned Li Ju again in the letter, and Yunnan couldn't help but have a strong curiosity about Li Ju. The last time Huang Zhi sent Li Ju sparrow clock and soap, Yunnan only thought that Li Ju was probably a person of strange and skillful skills. Although he liked it, he might not value it much. This time, with 2 collections and song Guozhi hanging in front, Yunnan realized that Li Ju was not ordinary and even wanted to hint to Huang Zhi to bring Li Ju to Jinling for him to see, or to exchange letters, so that he and Li Ju could communicate a little. Yunnan hesitated for a while, because there were many things to do in the first month of the year, and neither song Guozhi nor Jiazuan Changduanju was written by Li Ju himself, nor was it related to the imperial examination, and it was not considered a serious study, so Yunnan put it aside for the time being. Yunnan sealed the letter he had written again, and wrote another one. Let's wait and wait. If Li Ju is really a rare talent, sooner or later he will leave Qingshan County and go to the power center of the capital, so there is no need to be too anxious. Li Ju didn't know that he was almost asked to see by the retired giant, and he was struggling with cement at the moment. As early as when Huang Zhi and Zayoli were still living a life of drunkenness and dreams in Li Garden, the construction of Li Garden was in full swing. The living room and guest rooms were built quickly, and the canals and septic tanks were retidied according to Li Ju's requirements. Li Ju and the mute also used modern building waterproof materials to ensure that not a drop of water would leak into the soil. At this time, Wang Dechen sent the 3rd batch of 16 people to work, except for the carpenter, who was left by Li Ju to make furniture. All the strong laborers were sent by Li Ju to the barren mountain to build houses and earth kilns. According to the established plan, there will be at least 30 long-term workers stationed in the barren mountain for a long time, and at least 30 houses will be built. Considering the future expansion of personnel, factory land and breeding land, an area 3 times the size was reserved for future expansion. Taking into account the risk of landslides, convenient transportation and water issues, the house was finally located at the bridge that intersected with a small road downstream of the river. The small bridge was already a little broken, so Li Ju simply asked them to repair the road and the bridge together, at least to turn the bumpy goat path into a gravel road that allows carts to pass. Building houses requires people, repairing canals, bridges, and roads requires people. Firing pencil leads requires a kiln, and firing cement probably requires several kilns. Including Meng Shai and Wang and others who were panning for soil, there were a total of 22 people working there. Li Juiyao felt that it was not enough, so he recruited some villagers from nearby to join him, and only then could he barely keep up with the progress. The first kiln was built, and Meng Shai and Wang took the lead, or in other words, became the first user. The first job Li Ju gave him was to burn the traditional cement. The raw materials of cement are lime, clay, and coal slag. You can also add broken ceramic pieces and tiles and other things. It is best to have iron or slag, but Li Ju got a total of several hundred kilograms, but spent dozens of taels of silver. The cost was too high, and it was not cost effective. Iron ore is a monopoly of the court, and the control is extremely strict. It is difficult to get iron ore, and it is not necessarily easy to get slag. If you don't have a way, you have to spend money. A batch of limestone was delivered, which is troublesome to crush. If you want to burn a large amount in the future, crushing limestone will definitely be a big problem. Now there is a separate person to crush the stone, and in the future, it will probably be necessary to introduce machinery. The most basic raw materials are available, and the next step is the formula and calcination time. Li Ju found several recipes in the book, and gave them to Yu Yaoniang. After crushing the raw materials into very fine pieces, he tried to burn them according to the ratio of the recipe. The homemade cement was transported back to Li Garden. Li Ju took the mute and another craftsman who participated in the repair of the canal and septic tank to try out the homemade cement. The formula itself is reliable, but the temperature of the earth kiln is not easy to control. Li Ju certainly knows what those temperatures mean, and what the kiln conditions corresponding to each temperature are. Li Ju is completely in the dark. Even though Yu Yaoniang is an experienced worker, he has burned it several times. The earth cement produced in the first few days is either not resistant to pressure, or solidifies too quickly, or becomes brittle and cracked after drying. Not to mention, compared with Li Ju's modern cement, it is not easy to use. Since it is equally difficult to use, why don't poor people use Lois to compact and make earth bricks? Yu Yaoniang was so anxious that he was furious, fearing that he would not be able to burn a good one and be expelled from Li Garden by Li Ju's cancellation of his current treatment. Where else can he find such a job where he can eat meat every day? Li Ju tried the traditional method of making cement for several times, and although he still hadn't produced a product that he particularly liked, he could see that Yu Yaoniang was getting better and better at making it, so he was actually quite satisfied. Seeing that Yu Yaoniang was so annoyed that he had several lumps on his face, he felt that the string couldn't be kept so tight all the time. If it broke, it would be a disaster. Among so many farm hands, he was the only one who knew how to make a kiln. So in the morning, when everyone finished breakfast and were about to pack up their tools, take their dry food, and go to work in the barren mountains, Li Ju stopped them and said, "Today is the 15th day of the first lunar month. Each person will be given a pound of glutinous rice balls and work for half a day. Today afternoon and tomorrow morning are both holidays. Those who have wives can accompany their wives to visit the lantern market, and those who don't have wives can accompany their mothers to visit the lantern market. If you don't even have a mother, go to the lantern market by yourself. If those who don't have wives can find a wife, as long as the wife is of good character and willing to work, I will give you 6 taels of silver as a betrothal gift. There are only 2 rules. The first is that you are not allowed to commit crimes. I give you a holiday so that you can celebrate the festival, not to make trouble. The second rule is that if you meet a girl you like, but she doesn't want to be with you, you are not allowed to bring her back by force, and you are not allowed to use money to buy a girl as a wife. If I let the master know that you have cheated, robbed, and bought and sold girls, then the master will settle accounts with you." The 15th day of the first lunar month was Valentine's Day in ancient times, the only legal and reasonable day for unmarried men and women to meet. If it is a big city, this night is generally a scene of fire trees and silver flowers all night long, and many dynasties with curfews would lift the curfew on this day. Women who usually don't go out can also go out on this day. Look at the lanterns, guess the riddles. It is the moon is on the willow branches, and people make appointments after dusk. Kingshan County is no exception. According to the situation in previous years, there will also be a lively lantern festival. The long-term workers in Li Garden didn't care whether they went or not, but after Li Ju said this, everyone was a little tempted. Especially those who brought their families and women. They heard that they could take a half-day break to go to the lantern market, and they were overjoyed. They all bowed to Mr. Li, thanked him, and then went to work happily with brisk steps. Yu Yaoniang and Sanji also had to go to the place where the women gathered to distribute today's work. In winter, clothes are not changed frequently, and they only need to be washed every 3 or 5 days. The most important thing for the women is to make clothes, mend clothes and cook. In order to save the stove for heating and the oil lamp for lighting, the women usually gather in one room to do needlework together. A few days ago, when the living room was being repaired, the women were working on the terrace above Yu Yaoniang's house, and a small shed was specially built for this purpose. After the living room was repaired, they moved to the porch next to the living room. The girls were very interested in the lantern festival in the city, and joy was on their faces. Li Ju rarely went to places where women gathered, because of his fear of suspicion. It was not until today that he noticed that they were getting better and better at dressing up, and now they were very different from when they first arrived at Lee Garden. There were always some personal characteristics on their neat clothes, such as flowers on the corners and sleeves from time to time. It is human nature to love beauty. Li Ju's mind moved, and he suddenly remembered an idea that he had put aside before. He could plan something during the Lantern Festival and give some benefits to Sanjiu and Yaoniang, two old and considerate girls. Li Ju called them and said, "Hey, Yaoniang, Sanjiu, come here for a moment. I have something for you to do." Chapter 46. The popular moonlight skirt is here. This world has many similarities with the world Li Ju lived in before. For example, by this time, the economic center had already moved south. The Jiangnan area was extremely prosperous, and the open atmosphere gave birth to many interesting ideas, and led the fashion trend. On the night of the 15th day of the first lunar month, the flowers, lanterns, and the bright moon complemented each other, and the light flowed. Therefore, in the era of the developed textile industry on the earth plane, the moonflower skirt was born to suit the Lantern Festival. Li Ju called Sanjiu and Yaoniang for this. Sanjiu is extremely beautiful. When we first met, her natural beauty could not be hidden even with her unkempt hair and dirty face. After 15 days of good food and drink, the whole person is radiant and radiant. This is a living signboard. Although the hair is still short, it doesn't matter. Wear a headscarf with short hair. Anyway, women at this time often wear clothes, handkerchiefs, gauze scarves, etc. when they go out. Taoist nun costumes are still a small trend, and they are even more common in operas. Sanjiu has only been in the Li family for more than 10 days. If she is given new clothes but not Yaoniang, it seems unfair to Yaoniang, so Li Ju simply called both of them to the small building. Yaoniang is my sister, and Sanjiu is the first one to come to Lee Garden. I didn't give you New Year's money during the Chinese New Year. I just found a few clothes from the warehouse that my sisters have never worn. You can try them to see if they fit and whether they can be worn. Li Ju originally planned to work in the textile industry in Qingshan County. Because cloth is one of the hard currencies of this era, he did not dare to blindly launch the mule machine, but he did need to find an industry for the female workers, so he thought of fashion design. He counted the stocks of several Oriental soft girl style, retro national style, Ming and King style in the warehouse, removed the styles that were mainly made of materials and difficult to replicate, and finally Li Ju selected several Ming dynasty styles with Qing dynasty characteristics. The clothes worn by the common people in Yang dynasty were almost similar to the style of Ming dynasty. Stand-up collar, oblique lapel, large lapel, round collar, 100-fold skirt and horse-faced skirt accounted for half of the country. In terms of materials, rich families mostly used silk products, and luo, gauze, damask and satin were the absolute mainstream. What Li Ju did was to go one step further than this era. He was a dead straight man and had no idea about clothing aesthetics, but so many beautiful young ladies and top designers in later generations handed in full marks. He couldn't do the questions, so how could he copy homework? What Li Ju picked out were two different moon-shaped skirts. The so-called moon-shaped skirt is a skirt composed of 5 colors that imitate the halo of the moon. Generally, the horse-faced skirt is composed of several pieces of cloth, with many pleats, and the colors of each pleat are different, presenting a colorful effect, which is the moon-shaped skirt. Regardless of whether this statement is right or not, it is in the warehouse anyway, and no one has ever seen people wearing it in this era, so Li Ju justified it as such. The skirt for Sanjiu was made of gauze, with soft colors and thin material. The various colors were stacked together in layers, like the light smoke and mist around the full moon, showing a graceful and elegant look. The skirt for Yaoniang was a gold brocade skirt, using the imitation of cloud brocade technology, with gorgeous patterns woven with gold thread on various rich colors. The other matching clothes were also selected as much as possible, those that were not available at the moment. Sanjiu's skirt and top were paired with a moon white satin top, rabbit fur lining, embroidered with hundreds of butterflies and flowers, and a light pink silk jacket. Because her hair had not grown out yet, Li Ju gave her a small mink hat and a short cape. Yaoniang's outfit was pure and lovely style. The skirt was colorful and gorgeous. The top was a white jacket and a green satin jacket, and the outside was a bright red cloak embroidered with a picture of hundreds of children. Around her neck was a cloud shoulder with a black background and gold and silver butterflies, and on her head was a Zaojan hat. Both of their clothes were decorated in the later popular style, with intricate patterns and borders, and the visual emphasis changed from symmetry to focus. This is one of the prominent differences between the decorative styles of robes in the Ming and Qing dynasties, and is also the development direction of women's clothing in the future. Sanjiu is thin, and Yaoniang still has a little baby fat. One of the two clothes is weak and slender, and the other is cute and lovely. At least on the surface, they match the styles of the two girls. Take them and change them, wash your face and hands, and it's better to paint your eyebrows and lips. Let's call Chuzanada and others to go to see the lanterns together in the evening. Li Ju was looking forward to how the two beautiful girls would dress up. It has been almost 2 months since the ancient times, and there are no entertainment activities. It is also laborious to interact with Huang Zhi and others. He just hopes that the two of them will go out to play beautifully as an entertainment program. Yaoniang was a little bolder because of Li Ju. She lifted up the woven gold moonlight skirt and shook it. The gold thread shone in the sunlight, which was extremely gorgeous. She asked, "Master, is this for us to wear for one day and then sent back tomorrow, or is it given to us?" Although Sanjiu didn't say anything, she was also looking forward to it. It would be a big profit to wear it for only one day, but it would be great if it could be her own. Li Ju smiled and said, "If I give it to you for free, wouldn't I lose a lot?" "Of course. You wear it beautifully, attract the attention of other women, let them all buy this style, and promote this skirt to the whole Jiangnan. Then I will give these 2 sets to you." Yaoniang knew Li Ju was joking when she heard it. In fact, the clothes were prepared to be given to them for free. She jumped twice on the spot, so the master wanted my sister and I to be examples for others. Sister Sanjiu is so beautiful, who wouldn't like her? And the skirt is so beautiful, there will be many people asking where to buy it to follow the trend. Then the skirt will belong to us, right? But, master, do you have more of this skirt? Well, if everyone wants it, how many can we sell? Li Ju took out purses, sachets, bracelets and other things to match the clothes from the storage under the cover of the box, and said, "If everyone likes it and everyone can make it, that would be great. Our family only sells these few things that outsiders can't make. As for those simple ones that everyone can make, we won't make them." This is Li Ju's plan. He took out these future trendy styles not to make money for himself, but to do a business for Qingshan County. It would be best if Qingshan County could stand at the top of the trend of this era, leading the trend everywhere, and closely linking Qingshan County with fashion. Today he took Sanjiu and Yaoniang out to show off their new clothes. If the locals like moon-shaped skirts, half-front shirts, cloud shoulder scarves, and rabbit hair capes, they would naturally follow suit and make a few more to visit relatives and friends and bring these things to other places. Outsiders may not be able to make them at the moment, and if they want to wear something new, they have to buy them. Since they are willing to buy, Qingshan County is naturally the first seller. He also matched the accessories for them, and finally got a set of pink shirts and green lining robes for Zaolian, and that was it. Li Ju sent them back to their rooms to wash and dress up, so that they could leave at any time in the afternoon. Chapter 47. Yu Yaoniang did not escape the fate of being sold. This day was extremely long, as if the sun could never stop turning. Sanjiu and Yaoniang washed and dressed up early, and put new clothes on Zaolian, including a tiger head hat. The 3 of them looked out the door eagerly. When there were gradually more laughter and joy outside, and the lights were lit up, they brought Zaolian to find Li Ju, and the meaning in their eyes was very clear. They wanted to go out. It was almost dusk, and the sky was slightly dim. In the sunset with a slightly golden red hue, everyone seemed to be covered by a layer of gauze. Sanjiu and Yaoniang both drew a little eyebrow and put on a layer of powder, and Sanjiu also applied a little lip balm. In the hazy light, the flaws and inconsistencies were covered up, leaving only a smooth face with pink light, delicate and tender, beautiful, and lovely. The fragrant ink is curved, and the rouge is light and even. Li Ju couldn't help but recite 2 lines of poetry, and paused at the 3rd line. He bent down and picked up Xiaolian from the ground and carried her on his shoulders. I know you can't wait. Let's go. Xiaolian was hugged by Li Ju like this, and she hugged Li Ju's shoulders obediently, as if she had found support. Even biological fathers rarely get so close to their children, let alone hold their children in their arms. Only the apple of their eye can get such love. Most of the time, children can only hold their mother's hand or be held by servants. Sanjiu said, Master, I'll do it. Why bother you to do the hard work? Li Ju waved his hand and said, although Xiaolian is small, she is heavy. You can't walk a few steps with her in your arms. Since I have no children, the children in our garden are my children. Xiaolian is the first one to come, so she is my eldest daughter. What's wrong with a father holding his daughter? Go ahead. Li Ju didn't expect the hidden meaning of this sentence, but Sanjiu thought of it and couldn't help blushing. However, she knew that Master Li had no other intentions, and she felt a little ashamed for a moment. When Yaoniang stared at her, she felt even more uncomfortable, so she thanked him and gently stepped back half a step back to the crowd. Chuzan, Shiba, and each held a corner lantern for lighting, and the Li family went out to enjoy the lanterns. There were also many lanterns hanging in Li Garden, most of which were needle-pierced boneless lanterns that Li Ju found, and a few were local corner lanterns and paper lanterns made by Wu Dalang. Wu Dalang's craftsmanship is very good. The bamboo strips are thin and evenly proportioned. The lanterns he made look simple, but they are durable. However, many local people can make such lanterns. However, the boneless lanterns that Li Ju turned out were complicated and varied and unique, attracting many people to stop outside. However, when Li Ju came out with a little girl, followed by 2 beautiful girls, the eyes of passers-by were inevitably attracted by Sanjiu and Yaoniang. They didn't even have time to look at the beauties that were rarely seen in normal days, let alone sigh when Qingshan County had such a beautiful girl. Everyone's eyes were only on the unique clothes of the 2 girls. Jiangnan is the most romantic place. The pursuit of beauty is undifferentiated between men and women, and the yearning for fashion goes deep into the soul. When they first saw the new skirts and new clothes that had never appeared before, their first reaction was, oh no, I'm out of date. I've never worn this. I've become a country bumpkin. The second reaction was, I'm going to make a set of clothes now. Sanjiu was a little timid at first, but when she remembered the purpose of Li Ju giving her this dress, she made up her mind and let people look at her clothes and skirt openly, but she lifted the scarf on her head to her cheek, revealing only a pair of beautiful eyes. Yaoniang often showed up in public, but she had never been looked at like this. She subconsciously held Sanjiu's hand, and Sanjiu held it tightly in return, and she felt that she had a backbone. Sanjiu sensed Yaoniang's nervousness from her slippery and cold palm, as if to encourage her, and as if to encourage herself. Don't panic. Think about why the master wants us to dress up beautifully. You are such a brave and careful girl. Why are you afraid of these? The 2 girls encouraged each other, and walked from one end of Guang'an Street to the middle. After turning, they arrived at the main road of the small town. The sea of lights, flowers, and people came into view, which made the 2 of them temporarily put their nervousness behind them. Just as Li Ju expected, Sanjiu and Yaoniang were the 2 most beautiful girls in the crowd under the full moon and the last afterglow of the setting sun. Because Li Ju and the mute were tall and strong, and Chuzan was also a half-grown boy, they had considerable military deterrence, so they had no trouble along the way. Even some women who wanted to talk to them hesitated and dared not come forward, and only dared to observe secretly. However, these 2 sets of clothes were like birds with wings, and soon spread to the streets and alleys of Qingshan County. Yu Yaoniang, who replaced Yaoniang, and married the carpenter Huang Yuba, also knew about this, and had the idea of going to see these two shining like clouds and rainbows with her own eyes. Last year, Yu Posey sold Yaoniang for 20 taels, and was still not satisfied. Seeing that Huang Yuba was still willing to spend 10 taels to marry a wife, she married Chunyang, who was not so pretty, to Huang Yuba, who could be her father. Yu Chunyang entered the Huang family unwillingly and cried. Huang Yuba was able to suppress his nature when he first married her. Yu Chunyang cried for 2 days, and then she felt relieved when she saw that the man did not like to beat people as rumored. Later, when she heard that Yaoniang had her head shaved on the first day she was with Li Ju, Yu Chunyang became happy again. She herself had finally left the countryside and moved to the town, and she would not be a peasant woman anymore. Although the house she lived in now was very small, it was a brick and tile house instead of a lois and thatched house. It seemed that it was not clear for the time being whether Huang Yuba would beat his wife or not, but it was a foregone conclusion that the master that Yu Yaoniang followed, that annoying guy, was not a good man. So, no matter what, she was always better off than Yu Yaoniang. Yu Chunyang was happy for a few days because there was work in the county town. Huang Yuba came to the county to do carpentry work and took Yu Chunyang to the city. By the way, Qingshan County, which was very shabby in Li Ju's eyes, was a prosperous metropolis in Yu Chunyang's eyes. When Huang Yuba first came to the city, he got a job at Li Yuan. He was provided with meat and food every day, and his wages were generous. He took the money home. Yu Chunyang saw that people in the county town were dressed fashionably, and they would cut cloth to make new clothes for the new year. When the women came and went, the young wives and girls were dressed up. She couldn't help but feel jealous, and even felt that their words and expressions were contemptuous, and they looked down on her who was rustic. So Yu Chunyang went to her husband to act coquettishly and ask for new clothes. Huang Yuba was new to Yu Chunyang at this time, and he had a lot of money, so he agreed. Huang Yuba was always sneaky, so Li Yuan didn't need him for the second round of furniture making after one round. It was near the end of the year, and there was no other work for a while. Huang Yuba was reluctant to leave the prosperous county town and return to the town, so he took Yu Chunyang to live in the county town. Yu Chunyang wanted to buy everything she saw. Huang Yuba was used to spending lavishly. After a few days, the couple was so poor that they could only eat porridge and pickles. As the family became poor, Huang Yuba's true nature was exposed. He beat his wife when he was angry, and beat her when he bumped into something. He also beat his wife when the landlord asked for rent. He felt that people looked at him on the road, and beat his wife when he went home. It was the same on this day. Who doesn't hang a lantern on the 15th day of the first lunar month? Yu Chunyang couldn't afford a lantern, so she made one herself and hung it on the door. Her lantern was the shabbiest in the neighborhood. The girls and wives of the neighbors invited her to see the lanterns. She wanted to go so much. She could see the sea of lights on the street from a distance, not to mention the brilliant fireworks. How beautiful. But when she saw her skirt, she was too ashamed to go out. During the Chinese New Year, Chunyang had just changed into new clothes, and she had proudly shown off in front of the neighbors' doors. But now, all the new clothes and cotton padded jackets were sold by Huang Yuba to exchange for wine, and now she only has one skirt to wear. This last skirt was bought by the aunt next door who saw her shivering in the thin linen pants, and felt very pitiful. She felt sorry for her, and gave her the old clothes she didn't want. How could Chunyang go out with a face? She was also afraid of being shown off and laughed at by others. The neighbor aunt advised Chunyang to go out for a walk. Chunyang fiddled with the cotton skirt and said, "I don't have clothes to go out. I'll just watch from a distance." Unexpectedly, this sentence was heard by Huang Yuba. Huang Yuba had just bought wine on credit at the wine shop and was scolded by the shopkeeper. He was unhappy in his heart. After hearing this, he felt that Chunyang looked down on him. So the man who loved to beat his wife, this time he was drunk, and vented his anger, and beat her more fiercely. Chunyang's old wounds had not healed yet, and she was beaten several times by Huang Yuba. She felt that this time seemed different from usual. The pain of the door bolt hitting her body was much more painful than before, as if she could hear the sound of breaking bones. She was so scared that her face turned pale, and she ran away in panic. Chapter 48, Sister, Brother-in-law, Save Me. Li Ju and his party walked along the street, looking at lanterns. They could not guess many lantern riddles, but they did buy a lot of lantern snacks. Especially those stalls that stood in the back and could not rush to the street were the ones that Li Ju was most willing to buy things from. If the owner of the stall was a woman or an old man, Li Ju would be happy to buy everything. Yaoniang slowly realized that Li Ju was helping the poor again and again. Anyway, it was because the master was a kind man that he saved her at that time. Who would spend 20 taels of silver to buy a little girl, unless they were a fool, would spend such an unfair amount of money. Those who could afford this money only wanted to buy Sanjiu. Walking and buying, they met a few neighbors who could talk to them one after another. Halfway through, they met Dying and Weaving Chen, who was enjoying the lanterns with his family. Dying and Weaving Chen had already regarded himself and Li Ju as one family and did not ask his wife, daughter and sister to avoid suspicion, but called them to recognize each other. Li Ju called Dying and Weaving Chen's daughter-in-law Wang's sister-in-law. Mrs. Wang knew that thanks to Li Ju, the family earned an extra 1,000 or 2,000 taels of silver this year, so she was also very enthusiastic. She was a woman who was very good at dealing with people, sweet-mouthed and sincere. With just a few words, Sanjiu and Yaoniang let down their guard and became sisters. Mrs. Wang liked Yaoniang's skirt very much, so she asked in detail after getting to know her well. However, Dying and Weaving Chen didn't beat around the bush. After the greetings, she asked directly, "You made these 2 dresses for your daughter, right? I won't ask you for more. Do you have this amount?" Dying and Weaving Chen gestured to slap him, but Li Ju pushed him away directly. "Go ask them yourself. How can I get involved in women's clothes?" "Well, if you can convince them to teach your female workers how to make these and sell them, that's your ability. You can do this business." Dying and Weaving Chen smiled happily and immediately went to his wife with a shameless face to get the 2 girls to talk. Dying and Weaving Chen has a good reputation in the local area and he is also familiar with the place. Many neighbors are his regular customers. Those older wives and younger ladies wanted to ask Sanjiu and Yaoniang about clothes, but they were afraid of Li Ju and the mute and did not dare to come. Now that the Dying and Weaving Chen family was chatting and laughing with them, they dared to talk to them boldly. "Where are you from? Why haven't I seen you before? We just moved here and live in Lian, Guanggan Street." "Ah, so you are the 2 sisters of Lian. Your skirts are really beautiful and your clothes are also interesting. How are these made?" "They were all found by our master. He said it's called moonlight skirt, which means that colorful cloth should be made to look like the shining full moon." Li Ju listened to them, and they soon chatted about the same thing, so he felt relieved. At this time, there was a commotion nearby, screaming and scolding, and the people in front of the left looked in one direction. Li Ju had good hearing and had heard that it was the man who was scolding his wife. He calmly moved Sanjiu and Yaoniang back, handed Xiaolian to Sanjiu, and held her tightly in his hand, and told Chuzan to take good care of his sister. Everything happened in an instant. As soon as Li Ju had told Xiaolian, a woman rushed out of the crowd and fell on the street, crying for help. Then a man rushed out, grabbed the door bolt, and beat her all over the head. While beating the woman to the ground and begging for mercy, he kept insulting her with foul language. Li Ju frowned slightly, stepped forward, gently grabbed, twisted, folded, and pressed, and then disarmed the man and pinned his arms behind his back, unable to move. Huang Yaba was used to bullying the weak and fearing the strong. He was still struggling when he was beaten. When he saw Li Ju wearing a brand new brocade saddle, he could not afford to pay for it, even if he sold it, so he immediately begged for mercy. "Please spare my life. Please spare my life." Yu Yaoniang had been beaten many times in the Yu family, so she couldn't help but feel a little sympathy for the beaten young wife, and hurriedly helped the young wife up with others. Chun Niang sobbed and stood up with the hands of the women in the family. When the lights on the treetops shone on her, she and Yaoniang saw each other's faces. They recognized each other and felt embarrassed. Chun Niang saw that Yaoniang, who she knew was not living a good life, was dressed in luxury, and she even forgot to cry. Yaoniang didn't know what to say when she saw this annoying sister again. In fact, Li Ju also recognized that this man was the domestic violence man who wanted 10 taels of silver to buy Yaoniang. He dared to be so fierce in public, which shows that Yaoniang was right to run away at all costs. If he really followed such a thing, he would have been beaten to death several times. Thinking of this, Li Ju became even more ruthless. If you have the ability, go and fight with the gangsters. Just bully the weak, you are also a human being. As he was talking, the police came to maintain law and order. Ran Si-chen hurried forward to make arrangements and told the situation that had just happened. The civilians around him echoed that this was exactly the case. Seeing that the man was in the wrong, the police took the small amount of money for the bribe, and there was no need to bother, so he took Huang Yuba away without saying a word. Chen Mang, the dyeing and weaving girl, whispered to Li Ju, "We have to stop here, don't interfere any further." The couple's affairs are also called it is difficult for an honest official to judge family affairs. If you interfere too much, it will be your fault. Besides, she is young, and you don't have anyone else in the house, so you have to avoid suspicion, even if you are in a melon field or a plum tree, right? Li Ju didn't like the saying it is difficult for an honest official to judge family affairs, but he also knew that this was the environment in ancient times. It was natural for a man to beat his wife. Even if he beat her to death, he would be sentenced to hanging in prison at most, and he could be redeemed or pardoned in a few minutes. At that time, the law was also difficult to enforce in places as small as the family unit, so killing wives, concubines, and children fell into the category of officials not investigating. If the people did not report it, even if it was dug up, it would mostly be let go. Li Ju nodded and said, "I won't care anymore." He was about to call Yaoniang away, but he saw Yaoniang and the beaten young wife standing in a daze opposite him, and couldn't help but wonder, "Yaoniang, what's wrong?" Yaoniang ran to his side in small steps, and gently grabbed Li Ju's sleeve as she did when she first met him. "She is my sister from that family, Chun Niang." Li Ju remembered that when he left Mingshu village, Yu Pozi was still arguing with the man about the price, and suddenly realized that Yu Pozi had sold her own daughter for money. Since she is your sister, you decide what to do. You tell me, I'll find someone. Yaoniang pursed her lips. She didn't like to always bully and torture Chun Niang, but seeing Chun Niang being beaten like this, with wounds all over her face and her hair loose and crying, she felt sympathy. And she hoped in her heart that Li Ju thought she was a good girl, and hoped that Li Ju didn't know that she hated her sister. She didn't want to show her bad side to Li Ju. So Yaoniang hesitated. Chun Yang reacted immediately. This was her chance. Yaoniang, this stinky stone, could dress so luxuriously and be the master. Why couldn't she? She didn't want to go back to Huang Yuba. Since this man bought her out of pity for Yaoniang, then it wouldn't be a big deal if he took pity on her and saved her now, right? Thinking of this, Chun Yang immediately rushed to Li Ju, her tearful eyes only looking at Li Ju, but she cried to Yaoniang, "Sister, please save me, I'm jumping into the fire pit for you. That Huang Yuba beats me twice a day, and I can't even drink a sip of tea. If you don't save me, sister, I will definitely be beaten to death by him." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. Just consider it a good deed for my daughter. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yu Yaoniang cried so hard that Yaoniang froze on the spot, not knowing what to do. If she said she would save her, she was just a girl. How could she dare to make the decision on behalf of Master Li? If she said she would not save her, would the onlookers or the master think that she was heartless and would not save her sister, and that she was a bad girl for taking advantage of her sister's misfortune? Sanjiu couldn't stand it, so she came over and whispered, "Master, I think, let's go home and talk about this. Why bother showing it to others? Since she is Yaoniang's sister, she can be said to be related to us, and it's not a stranger visiting, and there is nothing to avoid." After encountering this incident, Li Ju lost the mood to stroll around. He asked around, but the mute never had his own opinion. Whatever Li Ju said was what he meant. Although they were still playful on the 3rd and 18th day of the first lunar month, the streets were not as fun as Lee Garden, so they all said they would go with the master. The first Lee Garden tour was abandoned halfway. Before Li Ju went home, he specially asked Chen Dyeing and Weaving to come to Lee Garden tomorrow, one for selling goods, and the other for Yu Yaoniang's matter. Since Chen Yang is Yaoniang's sister, Li Ju would lend a hand even for Yaoniang. But Li Ju was not a fool. He knew that the family, legal and human relationships in this era were complicated, so he would not just take people away and be done with it. But he had no idea what to do specifically for the time being, and he had to rely on the local snake dyeing and weaving Chen to come up with an idea. The group returned to Lee Garden, and Li Ju asked Yaoniang to take her sister to settle down, asked Shibalang and Sanjiu to cook supper, and went back to his room to find satin and chiffon, etc., to prepare to make ready-made clothes for Yaoniang, Sanjiu and others. Soon, a bowl of hot wontons in chicken soup was served. Li Ju said, "Didn't we agree that you would tell me and I would go to the kitchen to eat? Why are you serving it again?" Sanjiu said with a smile, "I can't afford to pay back the clothes that the master sent me. I feel uneasy if I don't help the master. Please help me." Li Ju didn't argue and ate everything in a few bites. When he looked up, he saw Yaoniang hesitating at the door. He stretched out his hand to invite her in and said, "Why do you look so embarrassed?" Yaoniang opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. Chen Yang was not an easy person to deal with. When she entered Lee Garden, her eyes darted around everywhere, more like a thief than a thief. She saw Wu Dalang and others going in and out of the house. The house was full of beds of similar colors and styles, so she asked who these people were and why they lived there. When she found out that this was for servants to live in and they could choose where to live, her face changed immediately. Yaoniang had no idea that her adopted elder sister had been so proud of her palm-sized brick house not long ago. Today, she entered such a large courtyard and saw such a nice house, which was occupied by servants. How could she not be jealous? When she arrived at Yaoniang's room, Yaoniang wanted to let her elder sister take her things and use them so that they could sleep in the same room, which would be more convenient. Unexpectedly, Chen Yang said, "My dear sister, you are old and you don't sleep well. Such a small house can't accommodate the two of us. You like to kick the quilt and snore when you sleep, and I'm afraid I can't sleep at night. I see that the house next to yours is still empty, so why don't I live next door? Just give me the soap and the big bath towel." Li Ju also gave the house next to Yaoniang to Yaoniang. Yaoniang saw that others only lived in one room, and she was embarrassed to occupy more than one room, so she left this room empty for the female family members to use for work. Occasionally, when everyone was talking and chatting at night, other wives would temporarily stay there, so the bedding and other things in the room were all available. Chen Yang occupied the house without any hesitation. Yaoniang hurriedly tried to stop her, saying, "This house is mine. If you want to live in it, I'll ask the master to pick another one for you." Chen Yang pushed her away with a light bump and said, "Oh, you want to occupy two such good houses by yourself? Do you deserve it? The master spent 20 taels to buy you, and your clothes must be 30 or 40 taels too. Including food and taking, the master has lost hundreds of taels. It would have been enough to buy 10 of you. And you dare to say that this house is yours and ask the master to find me one now. You can make the decision for the master. But I'm afraid that the master will think it was not cost effective to buy you. In order to prevent you from being sold at a low price by the master, I have no choice but to make do with you." These few words made Yaoniang speechless. Chen Yang took Yaoniang's soap and big bath towel, wiped her face with the water in Yaoniang's room, slammed the door, and lay down to sleep. Yaoniang thought about how Chen Yang rolled into the bed without brushing her teeth, and was covered in mud and dirt. And Xin wanted to ask her to get up and wash up, but Chen Yang just said, "I'm going to sleep. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Since the master is willing to save me, he will definitely buy me food tomorrow. If I can't sleep, how can I serve the master tomorrow? I'm not like you, who is light-hearted and as rough as a stinky man." Sanjiu brought out the chicken wonton soup, turned around and heard this, and saw Yaoniang with tears in her eyes and her face turning red and white. He guessed that Yaoniang did not have a good relationship with her sister. Thinking of the things she had seen between the sisters-in-law when she was in her husband's family, she suddenly felt sympathy. Sanjiu pulled Yaoniang out and comforted her with soft words. After confirming that Chunyang was indeed not someone who was easy to get along with, he said, since she is so cunning and likes to be lazy and cheat, let the master send her away after dealing with her husband tomorrow. I can see that, although you are strong-willed, you are a fool with a strong appearance, but a weak heart. You can't do anything when you meet a tough guy. It is not right for me to stand up for you. You and I are both slaves who have signed a contract, and she is a decent lady from someone else's family, a commoner. Let's ask the master to help. Our master is good at defeating all evil spirits. Yaoniang felt very aggrieved, but will the master think that I'm meddling? I'm so afraid that the master will hate me. What if the master doesn't like me anymore? I might as well die. Sanjiu said, probably not. The master is very kind. How could he think so much? The master is really good to you. If you don't like her and think she is not good, just tell the truth and the master will definitely help you. Yaoniang was comforted by Sanjiu, but when she was called in by Li Ju for questioning, she did not dare to say what she really thought. In essence, she was still the timid little girl of the Yu family. In order not to marry Huan Yuba as a human sandbag, she had used up her courage for a lifetime. Li Ju was indeed a rough man, and he could not understand why Yaoniang was so embarrassed. Yaoniang did not say anything, and he just thought that the little girl had a lot on her mind and let it go. The next morning, Ran Xichen came early, first had a hearty breakfast at Li Yuan, and then while drinking the dessert milk tea after the meal, he and Li Ju had an in-depth analysis of how to save lives from particularly cruel domestic violence men. At first, Ran Xichen thought that Li Ju was only helping because of Yaoniang, but after a careful chat, he realized that Li Ju's idea was to prevent Huang Yuba from harming girls again. Ran Xichen was shocked again. What do other people's lives have to do with you? Saving one is not enough. Why save so many? Let me tell you, outsiders don't need to interfere in the affairs of the young couple. Li Ju said, if it's just a fight between the couple, I won't bother to care. I'm not the kind of person who worries too much. But I heard that he beat 2 wives to death before, and 2 others almost lost their lives. He especially likes to target girls who are 14 or 15 years old. To be honest, if I hadn't lived in seclusion in the mountains before, I'm afraid I would have a daughter in her teens. If my daughter met such a bastard, I would beat him to death. I thought, just do it for the next girl who might be beaten to death. Just do it to accumulate virtue for my future daughter, and it can also be regarded as getting rid of harm for the people. Ran Xichen said, oh, I understand. Fortunately, he is just a carpenter. He has no backing and no skills. Such a person is easy to manipulate. Brother, give me some money. I have to take care of a few people. First, I have to ask about the situation by asking for favors. Why didn't anyone investigate the 2 wives he killed earlier? Logically, if they are investigated, this is also a crime punishable by hanging. Secondly, of course, we have to take care of the people up and down, so that when the criminal charges are investigated, no one will take advantage of the situation and ask for leniency. Thirdly, we have to arrange the lawsuit. Without a good lawyer, nothing can be done. If he has a good lawyer, he can get away with it. So we have to help the 2 families in front of him. Li Ju thought it was not a big deal, so he withdrew some money and gave it to him. Ran Xichen added, and his wife, if you plan to save her, it's best to buy her out with money and ask for her letter of divorce or a letter of sale. These official documents must be completed in place to prevent him from blackmailing me. If I buy the letter of divorce with money, I can still get the money back in the future. But if you don't get this thing, he will have the right to cause trouble for you, and you'll have to worry about your reputation. Li Ju nodded quickly. Ran Xichen called his servants and said, let him help with it. He has been with me for 2 years. He is a clever kid, with a cruel mouth and a lot of tricks. He is the most suitable person to do this kind of scary little thing. Li Ju then found Wu Daling and asked him to follow Ran Xichen's apprentice to do it. He then continued the conversation with the topic of getting money and turned the page with Ran Xichen to talk about business matters. Chapter 50. The shop is being prepared. Huang Yuba was a money grubber. The apprentice of dyeing and weaving Chen coaxed and deceived him into writing a letter of selling his wife, even if Chen Yang was really saved. Huang Yuba took the money and thought about going to Yu Pose's house to buy Yu Yaoniang. The price was cheap and the girl was still young. If she was injured, he could sell her to Li Ju. I think he would not refuse to buy her for the sake of the little girl. He was planning here. A few days later, the families of the two daughters-in-law he had beaten to death started to make a fuss and sued him and the lawyer he had found to handle the criminal case to the county government. Huang Yuba hurriedly found a lawyer to sue, but he didn't expect that dyeing and weaving Chen also found a lawyer and bribed Huang Yuba's lawyer to turn against him on the spot and spent money to encourage the two families to continue suing. In the end, Huang Yuba was sentenced to hanging for beating his wife to death, fabricating charges, and false accusations. This happened some time later. It was the 17th day of the first lunar month, and Ran Zichen had only received the deed of selling his wife. The deed of selling his wife finally fell into Li Ju's hands. Li Ju wanted to burn or shred it, but was stopped by Ran Zichen. Ran Zichen felt that Li Ju had no common sense at all. If someone fights with you in the future, this is your confidence. How can you tear it up? What if his brothers or uncles come to you to ask for this woman, and you say Huang Yuba sold it to me, and people come to you for the deed, but you can't produce it, then don't you have to negotiate with both sides? Isn't this a waste of time? Li Ju said, I don't plan to let her stay, and she can't blame me if she wants to. In Li Ju's view, Yu Yaoniang has her parents, and is a half-grown girl, so she naturally has to go home, and doesn't have to stay here. Subjectively speaking, he didn't plan to keep her either. Dyeing and weaving Chen thought for a moment and said, let's keep her. This girl is not a pushover. Otherwise, just consider it as selling her to me. If she lives a peaceful life, we won't mention this matter anymore. If she has any plans, it's not your fault. I have my own way. Li Ju said, okay. Dyeing and weaving Chen kept Huang Yuba's letter of selling his wife and tucked it into his bag. He said, the other day we talked about needing a shop. I've already picked one. It's the clothing store 3 streets away from our cloth shop, next to the horse and carriage shop. I agreed with him that it only costs 30 taels. He will sell everything from the shop in front to the back, upstairs and downstairs to us. Li Ju remembered the location of the shop. He had passed by it before to buy a car and asked, why did you choose that place? The place is large and cheap. The living space at the back can be converted into a warehouse. There is a carriage and horse shop on the corner, which is convenient and will not be in the way. Qingshan County can't consume the goods in our store, so we have to send them out. Sending them out will inevitably require carriages and horses, or if someone comes to pick up the goods, they must come on horseback. That place is easy to use, and it is also easy to hire, rent, park, and use carriages. In case a carriage breaks down, or a horse is sick, it won't delay things. Li Ju nodded, okay. Let's do it. Since we are planning to go wholesale, we don't have to worry about what it looks like inside. It's enough to have a cabinet outside for display and sample. The most important thing is to make it convenient for unloading and sorting. Please keep an eye on the work. When you are done, ask someone to send a message here, and I will have someone to escort the goods out. Dyeing and weaving Chen said, that's easy. It will only take 10 days. There are so many people begging you to sell soap and sparrow clocks. Our shop will be packed with people before the first month of the year. However, once the shop is opened, it's not just a matter of $3 or $5. There are also shares involved. You need an accountant. Public and private accounts are one thing, and our two families need to each have an accountant to check the goods. Li Ju said, Ada keeps track of my private accounts and warehouse accounts. The registration of the quantity of these items is not more troublesome than the money transactions, and he remembers it well. Money involves receipts, payments, compensations, and losses, and Ada can't do that. I have a candidate in mind, that's Wang Dechen, who is recruiting workers for me outside. Li Ju showed the expense list of the first 2 batches of farmhands sent by Wang Dechen to Ran Zichen and said, the weather will soon get warmer. I plan to give the chicken feather house over there to County Magistrate Zhao to be converted into a charity hall. In this way, Wang Dechen will have nothing to do. and I just happen to have no one who can do the accounting. Let's do the accounting among the whole family. Who do you think can do the most? You can't guess. It's Sanjio's daughter, Yu Yaoniang, who is the most intelligent. But it will take another 5 or 6 years for that girl to take charge of the accounts. Ran Sichin looked at the account Wang Dechen paid and found it was not bad and honest. He thought about it and remembered who this Wang Dechen was. He said, oh, I remember. It's him. He is a good person. Sometimes I ask him to do things for me. He is really capable. The most difficult thing is that he has a quick mind but is honest. You know, when a person is smart, he will inevitably have thoughts that he shouldn't have. Dechen is good in this matter. You can talk to their brokerage and buy out his contract directly. Remembering who the man was and knowing that he was a trustworthy person, Dang and Weaving Chen stopped talking about Li Ju's private affairs and urged him to record the accountant and to make a list of the first batch of goods sent to the store so that he could notify the merchants from other places to pick up the goods, etc. Li Ju didn't waste time and listed the prices of the best soap and the cheap soap to him separately. The soap was still packaged in extremely delicate cardboard boxes, with brightly colored paintings and fine paper as the backing. These packages that were difficult to imitate with ancient craftsmanship were the best anti-counterfeiting and price-raising methods, and the price was set at 3 cents of silver per box. The price of the soap was slightly higher than the planned price of the traditional soap, and was temporarily set at 5 cents per piece, which was about the same price as a pancake, and was really cheap. When the traditional soap was made in the future, it would only cost about 2 or 3 cents per square. According to the calculation of traditional pencils, a craftsman can make 600 to 700 pencils a day. Taking into account the labor and material costs, it is about 10 pencils for 1 penny, and the final price will be about 50 to 60 pencils for 10 pennies. Therefore, the price of modern pencils with more stable quality is set at twice that, 3 pencils for 1 penny. In the first batch of shipments, Li Ju sold 1,000 soaps of various colors, 300 boxes of soaps for 7,200 yuan, and 5,000 bundles of pencils for 60,000 pencils. This list made Chen, the dyeing and weaving man, sigh. These are not worth much in total, and the profit is even less. Li Ju had no choice but to write down a few of the sparrow clocks and pocket watches that he had been thinking about for a long time, and said, I don't have many self-ringing clocks, and I still hope that you can use this to pry open the market in other places, so you have to sell them slowly. Selling 20 to 30 a year is enough. Anyway, I have to hide a few for emergency use. Asking craftsmen to copy also requires a mold. 20 or 30 clocks, even if the price drops, are worth at least 7 or 8,000 silver coins, so Dyeing and Weaving Chen accepted it. At this time, where can you get a stable business of 7 or 8,000 taels a year? You have to rely on the weather for your livelihood. Li Ju also wrote down the cement, and the price note is to be determined. For the time being, he doesn't know how much the output can be. Dyeing and Weaving Chen has seen the roll of cement, which is the canal garden and the floor of some houses. It must be said that cement is really easy to use. Although the floor plastered with cement is not as smooth and comfortable as the blue brick and blue stone slab floor of the rich family, it is cheap and has strong plasticity. You can apply it wherever you want. It will not cause dust, it is not afraid of water flooding and fire, and you don't have to spend a lot of effort to carve and bake it, which saves a lot of time. But he saw with his own eyes how those grey things were made. It took several days from grey to mud, and then to harden. How can those merchants have time to wait so long? Cement is a good thing, but its benefits can only be known by those who have seen it, so how can we let the merchants outside know it? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.